sicela ukuvula ngemthandazo walakhaya sicela sivale emehlo labawavalako. Nkulunkulu umnini mandla wonke siyakhuleka ukuthi lo msebenzi lesitawenda lomhlanje kulendlu lehloniphekile ube phasa esandla sakho ulethe lidumo enkosini yethu naloko lokuyoba lisito eveni lakangwane. Amen. Siyabonga malunga lahloniphekile asibongele kuba khona kwenu. Ngiboke kule malunga e-Finance Committee. Tuesday lilanga lelikhulu kithi thina ma-members sibuye tingudleni because that's when we consult with our constituents. And ngeke ngithemba ukuthi bahlonishwa bese bajike khona balunguda base bajaka kuba la. Siyadumisa ke lokuthi bahlonishwa babe khona lomhlanje kulomsebenzi. Ngiphinze futhi ngibonge nakuwe malunga ama-alternates lesiwacelile ukuthi abe khona atosibambisa kulomsebenzi. Siyajabula nje bahlonishwa ukuthi nitinike nani ngoba Tuesday njengoba ngisho special day ngilapho sigaya khona livoti bese uyakwadi ukuthi uyabuya yini noma ubuyi kuba ngilo Tuesday le benchmark. Na ungishito njalo bahlonishwa ngifuna icitha isikhathi ngoba ngathi isikhathi sethu asiso lesiningi nganomsebenzi eminingi. Tinzaba ngiyabona abahlonishwa sebabonile ukuthi tinzaba tinengana kuna 9 wama-bill kuna 6 wama-bills bese sekuba na 3 wama-sub legislation lokungama-regulations. Bese ngifake ngabolonina kubaluka lahloniphekile lengithatha ukuthi bahlonishwa batholile ukuthi sitawuhamba kanjani ngetigaba njengoba nje induna bengishito ukuthi egroupini sitayinika kusende lama preambles ku Customs and Excise Amendment Bill na ku Eswatini Revenue Services Amendment Bill kanjalo futhi ne VAT Amendment Bill. Ngiyona lengidawucela ukuthi induna icale ngawo bese siyanotha bahlonishwa ngithemba usibona notebooks baphethe sinote for i-debate and questions kutawuthi ke bahlonipheki nasesicedzile bese simuvela kulamanye futhi kanjalo. So tawasatsa ngecluster ya 3 ngishito njalo. I take this opportunity and invite the Honorable Minister for Finance and the preamble yakhe first on the Customs and Excise Amendment Bill. Siyabonga.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I'll maybe stand just while I do the preambles. Mr. Chairman, in fact, I'll start with a quick preamble to the preambles, if you don't mind, Mr. Chairman. And that is that Honourable... Sorry? I'll start with a quick preamble to the preambles. Okay. just to set the tone. Members of Parliament, what we have here and committee, we have, as the chairperson put it exactly, we have 6 bills and the amendments to bills, and then we have 3 regulations. So none of these are new bills; these are all amendments. The amendments in general are tweaking our legislation to be able to be more efficient in tax. That's the general rule, the general what you're trying to do here. These are also not big amendments. They are generally small amendments. And so hence you'll even find my preambles are really simple. Normally I've got a 5, 6, 10-page preamble. These are mostly 1 or 2-page preambles. So because it is so concise, but now there are important changes, Mr. Chairman, but they are not many. They are not big within them. There are lots of them across the different legislations, but not too many in each legislation. So if I can just unpack it that way so one can expect this. And like I say, they are broadly to try to refine our tax legislation because, as you know, at the moment, we are focusing not trying to increase tax in Eswatini, in fact, trying to decrease tax and make tax easier to pay, but broadening to make sure everybody pays is the critical part of what we're trying to do here. So, as you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, I'll start then with the Customs and Excise Act Amendment Bill. The Ministry of Finance submits the Customs Excise Amendment Bill 2025 bill for consideration by the Honourable Committee. The objective of this bill is to, 5 different things: promote clarity, consistency and certainty on the administration of the Act. Secondly, regulate the disclosure of information by Eswatini Revenue Services. Thirdly, recognize existence of other agencies which have ties with Eswatini Revenue Services. Fourthly, enable the Minister to enter into agreements with other countries for the purpose of establishing places of entry or exit for Eswatini in foreign countries, and development of accreditation programs. Consistent with the above, the bill seeks to provide a legal framework for exchange of information between Eswatini Revenue Services and state-owned entities for tax purposes. We're finding the linkages sometimes are not there, so we're trying to just provide those linkages to make sure we can collaborate properly across entities. It also provides the implementation of a single window operation, also known as a one-stop border operation for competent authorities, as well as the implementation of accreditation and authorized economic operator programs. These programs will strengthen trade facilitation with other SACU member countries. Further, the bill recognizes the recently established Revenue Appeals Tribunal as a competent authority to adjudicate on tax appeals, thus promoting transparency in the administration of the Act. This conforms to international standards on customs operations. In line with the World Customs Organization on international agreements for custom operation, the bill sets out the legislative framework for advanced rulings. Advanced rulings are written decisions for customs authorities that specifies and clarifies origin, the valuation of goods prior to importation or exportation. They are designed to expedite processing of goods for customs purposes, thus enlivens trade. Lastly, the bill recognizes and bestows upon agents to execute comprehensive customs processes on behalf of a principal trader. This is to shorten processing time spent at points of entry into Eswatini. So, Mr. Chairman, that is the first preamble on the Customs Excise Amendment Bill 2025.
Thank you, Minister. You don't have to sit down now, but all I wanted to remark on is that we don't have the preamble that you are reading. We have a very short one that was sent to us, just a paragraph. And we would want to have these preambles because they are very helpful when the debate ensues. Yeah. So whoever has it, Director, if you have it in your, soft copy, you can send it direct to the clerk so that members can be appraised. Say. Thank you very much. We don't have that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I presume that what I emailed and what is emailed to me are the same ones.
Yeah.
They are the same ones.
Yeah.
No, I wish I could actually agree with you, Minister. I really wish so. But what I have in my own emails is just a paragraph. And I think that that's the same thing that was sent to members. Sorry? You have? Yeah. Or I think there was something, because the paragraph here ends with...
Are you not looking at the regulations?
Sorry?
You're looking at the preamble and the regulations.
well, it's the preamble.
For the regulations, yes.
Yes.
This is the Act.
And then we don't have that. Let me see.
It is in the pack there.
That's the regulations. Preamble for the
Customs
no.
Act.
That we didn't get.
It is the third last one. Sorry, there were so many.
In all the documentation that you send, the preamble really being the preamble regulations, the paragraph we call.
Maybe I think Shabang made an error because he got all.
Yeah, so on my list that I emailed, it is in that list. Obviously, things can get lost in translation away, Honourable, But it is in the list that, according to my email, was sent there. And like I said, unfortunately, the sequence is not right. So the first one on that list is the customs for regulations. So the sequence is cockeye according to the list you've given us now to do today in. So there's not so you have to go to, I think it's the eighth one on the list there, to find the Customs Excise Act Amendment Bill. Correct, yes.
And then we're going to the Eswatini Revenue Services. But if there can be some movement before members debate, I'd be appreciative of that. In the meantime, I would suggest that you go ahead and read the second one.
Okay, let me do that. So this one, so Honourables, yeah, so just watch out, because you've got it gets confusing. You get the Customs Excise Regulations, you've got the Customs Excise Amendment Bill. So just, I think the first one on the emails is the regulations, but it's almost the last one today in discussions. The first one you spoke about is the Amendment Bill preambles. Okay, so the next one, according to the list that we're going to work on today of the first three, is the Eswatini Revenue Service Amendment Bill, number 8 of 2026. This is a one-pager. The Ministry of Finance submits the Eswatini Revenue Service Amendment Bill, number 8 of 2026, for consideration by Parliament and the Finance Committee in this case. The Eswatini Revenue Service was established through the enactment of the Eswatini Revenue Services Act of 2008. The responsibility of this institution is to assess and collect all revenue on behalf of government. The Act stipulates that there shall be established a fund into which money would be deposited through various means, including appropriation by Parliament for the purpose of ERS. However, as government is constantly faced with a deficit within a budget, it transpires that ERS would also be subject to budget allocation cuts, yet it is the institution that finances the national budget. The insufficient allocations to ERS have crippled the institution's operations, which result in ERS underperforming in terms of meeting their collections target. This is necessitated considering another option of funding ERS so as to sustain operations for maximum revenue collection attainment. In line with this, the bill seeks to ensure that ERS gets sufficient annual budget allocation so as to sustain operations. I think in short, Mr. Chairman, I think this bill is trying to say that once we have established a budget for ERS, on a monthly basis, they can take their budget from the tax proceeds before transmitting the money to the tax, rather than transmitting it all and waiting for their subvention, and then sometimes subvention comes late, and it means the amount of tax you collect is less. So that's what we are trying to do here, just to try and make sure operations remain slick and operations remain on track with within ERS.
I think there was an error, Minister, when the bills were sent electronically. I think there was an error because it only shows the first page in all the bills. It only shows the first page. That's it. Sorry? Yeah?
On this one is okay.
On this one. Iphelele. No, mngibona le revenue. But the other one, even the first page, customs. Yeah. Okay. Minister, I hope Director is trying to sort us out. But go ahead to the third one, Minister. So let's not debate.
Shame. Thank you, Honourable Chair. So again, what I sent on the email was was the preambles and the presentations. Obviously, the actual bills, as we were tabling them in the House, the Speaker's office was emailing them. But unfortunately, because we tabled them probably over 4 different sessions, I presume it's getting... So you're spot on. Let us get one email with everything, the preambles, the presentations that will still be coming, obviously, as we're now being workshopped, as well as the bills. Keeping in mind, Honourable, some of these bills are so simple, they are only a page. So keep that in mind too. It's not, like I've said before, they are not long, lengthy things. Some of them are only a 1-page document. They are that simple, like the Stabilisation Fund one. It's a few lines. It's that straightforward. Right, the third one is the Value Added Tax Act Amendment Bill of 2026. Again, 1-page preamble here. The Minister of Finance submits the Value-Added Tax Amendment Bill 2026, VAT Bill, for consideration by Parliament. The objective of the bill is to amend the VAT Act 2011 so as to provide five different things here: regulations and compliance obligations for non-resident suppliers of electronic services, establishment of an electronic invoicing system that enhances transparency, traceability, and collection of VAT, ensure alignment of VAT treatment of electronic services with international best practices and realities in the digital economy. Fourthly, the imposition of administration penalties and offences for non-compliance. And the fifth one is facilitating investment in long-term projects. In line with this, the bill seeks to ensure that the currently untaxed digital economy is subject to VAT and ensure that non-resident suppliers of electronic services are charged VAT. An example here, Honourable Chair, is like if you download an app and you pay for the app, there's nothing Eswatini gets for that, and it's wrong because it's a service being provided in Eswatini. So this bill is trying to deal with those kind of things. Whilst this is beneficial for the country, it is designed to comply with best practices globally. This bill will also facilitate investment in capital-intensive industries and support long-term projects. The net effect is the generation of additional VAT revenue, as well as to bolster efforts geared towards enhancing economic development in Eswatini. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Those are the three first preambles.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Bahlonishwa safundziwe amabhili amathathu bese ngavulela inkulumo mpikiswano uma ngabe khona lo ngafuna kubalunga lahloniphekile uyiteka lenzaba singaphika noma ngabe yini bahlonishwa noma ngabe ufuna kuphika lesithathu noma ufika kuphika lesi-2 noma entirely up to the honourable member. Siyabonga. Mhlonishwa Alec.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, ngacela nje kuva kahle endvuneni lokuthi ngive kahle indvuna kulena yaka ERS yokuthi sebatawu deducta before ba remit kuhulumende lokulabavamise kukuremit ngoba itolo uthi lo lebe bakwenda nyalo ukuthi bebasingekukoleka bangathathi nalongabe kutakubo bakumixe nje konke kuhulumende bese ke hulumende soyabaphakela just like aphakele ematiko ithi indvuna nangiva lokhu ukutama lokuthi angadileyeki iERS lokuthi endele imisebenzi yakhe kulandzela imali akhone kusebenta angameli ukuphakelwa nguhulumende ngoba utkhanza sangena in the same problem ya the rest. Ngifuna kuva ukuthi uthi minister le amendment la isingako ngileyo yini noma ngoba kunekuthiwa kwakwa ifund angayivakele ifund ukuthi uthi ERS fund sengiphi leyo labangakhona ikuyakha. Ngicela nje ukuva lokho check ngiyabonga.
Asibonga mhlonishwa Dr. Bongosi. Okay, then
Siyabonga Chairperson. Maybe still on that le khulunywa ngumhlonishwa. Ingabe ngeke yini kube nebungoti ukuthi sebata ugcina batibambela lenengana before ba remit master against lisidzingo se leave dokhanza ukuthi leave maybe leave linesidzingo bona bathi no nyalo ayisendlulile sibambela ukuthi sikhona ku7 how ama controls ataba njani. Secondly, maybe kule gcina kule VAT la ishoko if kutawu sizama taxa tindwa letinga taxe ingabe sitawukhona invele lokuthi noma sesinayo yini indlela yokubona ukuthi okay emaswati a download nang FIFA am download kangaka am download kuphi ngubani futhi so that maybe atokhona kubhadala. Siyabonga.
Mhlonishwa Masiphula.
Ngiyabonga Honourable Chair. ngicela nje kule kuqala customs and excise amendment bill kuchecka ukuthi engabe lama amendments, are they aligned with what is happening in the region ukuthi kuyahambisana nalokwendeka kubomakhelwane and the like sti align kangakanani. And then kule VAT what's the real target? Are we targeting the black market? These two, is it like maybe an e-invoicing in le lesifuna kuya kuyo, and if kunjalo mhlambe umuntu anga appreciate nje ukuthi vele bese kusikhathi sokuthi there's quite a lot of money lelahlekela live umcebo lahleka lengaphandle from lack of that model yekuthola ema taxes, especially from bangani bethu labaningi labanemabhizinisi lamancane ngale ngaphandle. Yes, ngibengicela ku-checka lokho, ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga Mhlonishwa Sekubutha. Mhlonishwa Mafutseni.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. Bengile kuleya ERS le ukuthi thathela kucala Mhlonishwa ukuthi angiphikisi but nje bengibuka ukuthi ngabe kungaba njani nasingamane sithi stavele sibanikete la kucaleni le yabo yonke bakhona ukuthi batosebenta kahle than lokuthi babothi thathela bona le mali. Angathi ukuthi kungaba njani nasingathi stavele sibanikete upfront bona bawusebenta than lokuthi bathathele. Ngiyabonga.
Yabonga Mhlonishwa. Mhlonishwa Masilela. Ngiyakunika nje kodwa ke itolo ngubhalele ukuthi yedwa wangichomela wangangiphendula ukuthi khona ngoba bengifuna kwenda ama bookings ngathi ngagcina ngikucancel. Nyalo sengothuko yamile. Angunike ngoba ncede le debate icubeka Mhlonishwa. Ngithi nje angirecord lokho ngoba nangibhala ukufanele usho ukuthi ndawuba khona noma ngingabi khona. Ungangisendele emoji into njengoba ungisendele into.
Ngiyabonga Honorable Chair, ngicela kuxolisa Honorable Chair. Bengizama nje ukuthi idolo ungabi too serious, uzokwaba too serious nangibuka lenkulumo yakho. So kani na laughter is medicine sometimes.
Kodwa ngiyiphi lenkulumo ngileyo ku-invite lo ongakayiphenduli.
Cha ngiyaxolisa sidakuteka sesitekale ngaphandle Chairperson lo. Mr Chairperson ngicela ku mhlambe ngicela kuba general. Ngilokuthi ngikhuluma ngihlethi phasi nje. Chairperson ngiyavuma ngiyabona sishaya umthetho but ngifuna ukuticelela indvuneni. Ukuthi Mr Chairperson nangishaya umthetho we-income tax noma we-ERS nginesicelo nje lesithi induna yami lehloniphekile kumane kuhambisane ngoba right now mhlambe ngishaya umthetho wenyalo wekukweleka imali live likahle liyangibona ngiyawushaya lo mthetho nduna yami but lengaphandle nduna yami nyalo lo ngikhuluma nawe nyalo kumile athi ke lo muntu nakangibona ngikhuluma la afika athi ibutho ukuthi ngikhuluma ini nangabe ema contractors angathi kulabanye abahlonishwa mhlambe bona i-action ikhona athi kude lutho but ushaya umthetho le wekukhulisa mhlambe umthelo owekukweleka umthelo. Ngiyacela nduna yami ukuthi mhlambe the balances mhlambe sisenda nalokho kube khona nalesi kwenda lengaphandle Chairperson ku dry mina ngingakhuluma nje side la kami ku dry and ngiyathi usinabangibona ku TV ngikhuluma lenzaba yemthelo ukuthi mhlambe ngifuna ukukweleka ngala nangala akuvakali kahle. Ngiyacela nduna yami lehloniphekile kubangcono laba sengikutheni bona kumbe mhlambe bayasebenza kimi ku dry kude ama contractors namhlanje bekusuka lenye ekugcina ngathi ngiyosha umthetho wekukweleka umthelo kusto khona kusitakala. So ngiyacela Mr Chairperson ukuthi indwena amanisi site icreate nje ama balances setayiteka lenzaba bese mhlambe ke umbuto wami la ekutheni noma mhlambe sitabe sesiyayiteka lelinye ilanga lenzaba le sesihamba close by close kunale income tax ngifuna kuva nje endvuneni ngokuthi into uproposer ngokuthi lokunye lapha kukhona I think amendment amendment section 2 wale income tax kukhona la ukuthi derived from a disposal of a membership interest in a company nako lokunye mhlambe nalangenhla kukhona la uderive khona le la kubhalwe ukuthi immovable property so nginalo mbuto nje nduna yami ukuthi nayi property vele ngike ngayithelela even before what exactly are you telling us namuhla lokusho ukuthi nyalo nase ngiyithengisa ngibekisa njengamasela sona na imoto nayi mhlawumbe so uyayithengisa nyalo phinze nase ngiyithengisa nyalo ithi induna nyalo seyiphinze yayitaxa le moto because within inside ngiyibhadalele isangene egedeni so nyalo seyithi induna nyalo sengiyayithengisa again ngoba mina sengibona ukuthi kimi sescraper mhlamba senginikete umhlonishwa wasengilongo ngoba yena kumbe le utawukhona kumaintain mina ngisakhona ithi induna sengiyakuthelisa lokho nyalo ngikuthelisa kwesibili ngiyatibutela nje ngagcina lapho lokunye hawu sengidakuteka kahle vele sengikubuke kahle ngiyabonga chairperson
Asibonga mhlonishwa welcome ukuthi mhlonishwa senkutheni.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu chairperson. I think kimi nje ngile ERS lokuthi any percentage of collected revenue kuthi ngabe akusi beki kabini ukuthi stawuthi nje ukuthi imali egwele kwako nje ERS start isikela la khani kwakhona or the minister. I do trust the current minister, but in future could there be no abuse of this any percentage where we will find a minister at agazetha ukuthi awase 20% ngiyabekisa because simvumele vele ukuthi any percentage of the collected revenue bangamthatha. Can't we prescribe the percentage as parliament? Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa ngutseni.
Angibonga Honorable Chair. Benginembuto nje ku Honorable Minister ukuthi kuliya ERS. Because ngiloku kuphela nje lafuna ukuthi kube reviewed. Otherwise kimi bekunale challenge yalo 200 emalangeni we penalty. Lebe ngicabanga ukuthi sengamkhulumisa lo simehlise nje. Noma ngiyathi kona ukuthi ku
Mhlonishwa ikhona leyo particular lokunye lesaya ku.
okay.
Mhlonishwa David Cruz Ncampalala followed by Mhlonishwa Manzi.
Ukufisha nombuzo wami sebakuthethe nje ngifuna nje che ukuthi baba nema target ukuthi os target 2 billion I collection uma sebatholele ngaphasi kule percentage la bayibekile itawuba the same ukuthi ushaya target noma akayishayini kulala batsikela yona ngifuna nje kuva lapho ukuthi you remain ukuthi nje ukolekile either it's a target noma no target it's the same ukuthi utavela ithole le mbasha yakhe la vele ati kolekela yona.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa Nhlambeni.
Siyabonga Honorable Chair. Maybe kwami kule kucala sihlalo le custom and exercise. Ngifuna ukuchecka vele ukuthi sihlalo lamandla lesinawo anganani sihlalo because we have lapha ukuthi sekunema decisions which were taken by a SACCO council. So nasi ngathi asivumelani nawo kungasimata because siwavele sasti align nje nawo kula ma regulations. So ngivashe ngathi lama regulations la ngoside mandla langanani ku kumbe engcenye nje bangasikho kumbe engcenye sitheni isihlalo
Ngithi mhlonishwa ukhuluma ngale customs and excise bill. Ngoba kuma regulations saya ku.
Oh, kushathi ngifunza le preamble ema regulations. No, sorry Honorable Chair. But bengichecka nje kulena. Kuleya ERS sihlalo Complicated kancane, Honorable Chair, because nangabe sifuneka affecteke lonke eliswati kumbe kunema cash flow for challenges akungabe sekuba nalabanye labangabi affected. Nangabe nje si affected sonke, let us all be affected angadi, but ke kumbe ngesta uyiva le justification yakhona lokuthi why them lokuthi bona babe exceptional, because sibhilivela lokuthi they have a mandate to make sure ukuthi i-cash flow in the country icishe iyasebenzeka. So if we are saying they must relax because they know ukuthi bona whatsoever that they are going to collect, they will get it njengendlela le now. So it's up to bahlonishwa, but nje nginayo le fear on this one. Thank you, Chair.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa. No, bona wathi enduna saying. Kodwa ke leyo ngacela kuvayo enduneni ukuthi lenza ba ema bonuses lega ERS. Lokusho sinakuthiwa bathathela le mali including ama bonuses. 2, kukuphi lapho khona minister lokwendeka ukuthi kufike lapho khona ukuthi bathathela whatever percentage that has been decided. The problem, the current situation lekhona nyalo le lesebenta konyalo inema bottlenecks kuphi lo lokwenda ukuthi bese sesiyashintsha. 3, kude longathi ukuthi ERS in as much as enda umsebenzi oncomekako emaswati continues not to be happy langaphandle. Now langisho njalo ke minister ngithi imithetho ERS nakafika kubantu bathi bantu uthenga leti impahla letingaka kuthi lo muntu uhulumende usangakambhadali uthi ERS ngifuna imali yami, you know, walelo ibhadela. All I'm trying to ascertain from the minister is kule mali latase bathathela kusuke sokubalwe nale mali yalo muntu lokhanza ukuthi client akambhadali. In this particular case ngiba specific kuba nguhulumende who is long client lomkhulu even, you know, kubantu. That would be my concern. Honorable Minister, you may respond.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Let me respond as best I can. Understanding, obviously, honourable members that will go for workshops, we can go into, they will go in really deep, explain, do the preambles, and really go into depth on every point. So some of them I might touch on light, but I will try and still respond to everyone. Honourable Alec Lushaba was asking about ERS, deducting before remit, and this, I think there's a few questions along this line, a little bit of discomfort, I suppose, around ERS collecting. I think, Honourable Chair, the Bible says something like you mustn't muzzle the ox while it's threshing the wheat, and it's a bit of a similar scenario here. If we muzzle the ox, you find there's no wheat for anybody because the ox is not eating while it's trying to create food for you. So it's on that principle, Honourable Chair. If our cash flow challenges means that ERS can't deliver their mandate, it now means that, because keeping in mind, tax authorities around the world aim at like what they call a 4% rule, which means that the cost of collection mustn't be more than 4%. And so these things in Bamba are percentage links. You give them less, you get less tax. You give them up to 4%, they say above 4%, it's not having the same impact. But if you give them less, you get less tax. So along the same principles, if we do have months when cash is tight and the ERS doesn't get money, it means that our collections are going down. And so for that reason, we feel as government, it would be a good idea to make sure every month that ERS makes sure that they get what they need so that your ox that's grinding the wheat remains healthy and can continue to grinding while maybe there's not enough wheat for everybody, but at least the ox doesn't also start going slower because of the fact that it's also not eating. So it's that principle. Again, it would be lovely. I think the Honourable Deputy Chair was mentioning, what if we just pay ERS up front? Unfortunately, keeping in mind it's about 700 and something million was pay them. If we pay them up front the first month, then we're going to create even a worse cash flow problem for ourselves. So I think the need is to say every month, what must the amount be? And again, we can discuss, Honourable Chair, we have felt, let's link it to percentage so that we can, because again, the thinking comes in, if we're now paying them every month Nomaganjan, the pressure somehow comes off. But I think the two things keep the pressure on. If we keep it a percentage, clearly the pressure is there to collect what they can for the government because they are getting a percentage of it. If they collect less, they get less. If they collect more, they get more. It's aligned with interests. Number two, the bonus system will still remain. So which means there will still be to say, listen, government will set this target. And just for information's sake, government has stretched last year too far. This year, we've stretched them even worse. As I sit here, especially with what's happening in Iran, the target is unattainable, if I can put it. So unfortunately, I can even say publicly, ERS reaching the target this year, we've stretched, so which means normally government says, what can you collect? We stretch it to say, okay, well, if you can get this, there's a bonus. And so they've, I think in the last 5 years or 6 years, they've hit a bonus once. And because we stretch, and we probably at the moment stretching too far, just for clarity. So we will continue to putting an amount there, and if they reach the amount, they get a bonus. So those two things will mean that hopefully they do still strive as best they can, which sometimes people feel causes pain, but strive as much as they can to collect. Because unless they collect properly, roads, or I'm saying us all delivering on our mandate, we fail if we don't get that right. I hear the one, so Honourable Dr. Bongosi was saying, you know, what about if there's something more urgent, Honourable Chair? So if there is something more urgent, government has the balance of the tax collection. So it means it has the, if it is a 4%, let's just say, government has the 96% to take care of the most urgent things. But let's at least make sure that the 4% remains there and deals with, like I say, just keeps the system going to make sure tax sustainably comes out. How will we see about the digital services tax? We must keep in mind that even though it's very difficult to say, if I download an app today and I pay for the app, or I'm buying something on the internet, whatever the case, it's very difficult to see for the taxman. But you must keep in mind all of that goes through our banking system. So our banking system sees it. And so what we are trying to do here is trying to link the information from banks, information from financial services units, so we can see what is being done. The idea is not to tax the Eswatini doing it. The idea is to say that when you've downloaded an app, that we can say to Google or Apple or all these international companies, say, according to our legislation, you have to pay tax in Eswatini, and according to our records, you have received X. You owe us so much tax. These big entities, they don't want to be, their interest is not to try and cheat Eswatini from tax. They are quite willing to pay tax what is due to the different countries because they want to operate here. They don't want us to block them in Eswatini. They want to be available. So countries that are doing this, they are receiving tax from these entities. But unless your legislation is there and you have the proof, you're not going to get your tax. So it shouldn't affect Eswatini at all. Eswatini won't even know the difference, I think. But the difference is with our legislation right, and then with our records, we should be able to access quite a bit more tax, because more and more, Honourable Chair, we are now buying using devices. Our world is becoming quite electronic. Honourable from Kubuta was asking, are the amendments aligned?
Minister, I see a member here, Lunga Togash, Toga Justice Jacket. Ngale Parliament, Babolegana, ERS, Babolegana, El Panch Natai. Nishawel, Logo Axebedi Land, Troll Panch Jangal. Yeah, Ushele Jacket. That way it's at an hour. Siabonga, Tobega Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So, Honourable Court is asking, are the amendments aligned with the neighbours? Most definitely. In fact, on some of these amendments, we're playing a bit of catch-up. We're trying to catch up with what the neighbours are doing, and as well as just with best tax principles, we are trying to get those done. On the VAT front, are we targeting black market? In fact, we are not. The target here is really the blue chip companies. Most of the companies that provide digital services, they are out there, you know exactly, are they massive companies. So it's not necessarily where we are closing black market ones and we're getting to the VAT, the rules we're putting on VAT to bring in these systems. which is not necessarily, I wouldn't call it a black market, it's just, let's call it our retail sector, our friends that are out there that are sometimes not paying over the VAT, and we need to, and that system is going to be able to close those loopholes there to make it extremely difficult if you don't pay VAT in Eswatini. We've launched this, and we now just need the legislation in place to make sure we can actually implement it fully and have the teeth to do something about it if we find gaps. And again, I think just touching that on a second question, will this close the VAT gaps locally? It definitely will. So we feel that what we're bringing you here, if you approve these things, will close the VAT gaps we are having in our system. Because the problem, as I've touched on before, with our retail sector not paying VAT is two things. Number one, we're not getting the money. Number two, because they are cheating the VAT system, they are putting the good taxpayers out of business. So it's got a double hit on the government when you have entities not paying over the VAT. So we have to become brilliant at knowing exactly how much VAT is due and collecting the VAT. So companies that are legitimate companies that are paying VAT are not adversely affected or outcompeted in the marketplace. I think I've responded to Honourable Mafuteni's question around the upfront payment. Honourable Lobamba came in to say that things are standing on the contractor front, but here we start talking about tax as if everything is normal. He is correct, Mr. Chairman. At the moment, cash flow is very tight. When we passed our supplementary budget, Honourables, we had the money for the strategic oil reserve, but we didn't have the cash for the other things. We went to the market straight away to start raising this cash. This morning, I was in meetings raising the money. We are constantly doing our best. So the money will start being raised, my feeling is in about a month's time, and only by probably November will we have raised the final amount of budget support that we need. So unfortunately, Honourables, I wish I could sit here and tell you, no, around the corner things are fine. It's not. It's going to be tight for a while. It's probably going to be tight until October, November. And so we'll do what we can on a weekly basis. Tax comes in, we'll try and pay bits and bobs. If we can raise something, it'll give relief. But the truth is, Honourables, I'm going to come to you with budget support. This year is, unfortunately, it's a large budget support I'm coming with. I'd plead for your support. It's that budget support that's going to pay for these contractors. Now, again, we say, oh, Minister, budget support's recurrent. It's not recurrent, Honourable. It's for, exactly like you're saying, it's for road contracts. It's for finishing the ICC. It's for the strategic oil reserve. It's for these things that have got long-term credibility to our economy. And so it's called budget support, but it's not necessarily to keep the lights on for salaries. That money we do have. It's to be able to implement projects that we've all decided to implement. And so just to ask for your indulgence when that comes, Mr. Chairman. We are coming with some serious budget support requests this year. When it comes to then, he also asked about tax on capital gains tax. So maybe just to be clear on that one. Number one, capital gains tax. Number one, we're only charging for businesses. So as an individual, if you buy a car, sell a car, that doesn't affect you. Or if you buy a house, sell a house, that doesn't affect you. It's when a business buys a vehicle, maybe the same car, is when you sell your assets, you're going to pay tax on the capital gains. Now, keeping in mind, something like a vehicle normally does not have capital gains because what you're selling for is less than what you bought it for, unless by chance you're selling it for more. So if you're selling it for more, you're going to pay something in, but it's often going to apply to something like a building because if you're a business, you buy a shed and you convert it into a business and you do business there over the years. You might have bought the shed for 20,000. By the time you finish 20 years' time, you now, need bigger premises, you sell it to move, you're selling it for 2 million, you'll pay the difference between what you paid for that shed and what you're selling the shed for. Because keeping in mind the upgrades on the shed, you were writing off against tax, 9 out of 10. So which means government was investing with you in that shed. When you sell the shed now, you share with government is the rules. And so just to understand the capital gains tax, so it's not relating to VAT. VAT doesn't come in here, like you were talking on the vehicle. It is purely for fixed assets that will be sold by businesses. We then had Honourable Welcome was saying any percent by the Minister in Parliament is rather prescribed. So I hear you. I think it's a good argument from Honourable Welcome. I think we'll see, Mr. Chairman, when we discuss this. Let's find the best way. I don't think ERS is adamant on it. We can find the best way to protect me from doing something silly one day, or Parliament. We can for sure put the rules in place that we feel we need. Honourable from Gutseni was asking about the 200 Mlangeni. As you said, Mr. Chair, that will come in. Honourable Cruiser Nampalala was saying ERS targets will get a percent. I think I did unpack that, is to say that they'll get a percent now of the revenue collected, I think is the neatest way. We can do it that way, or obviously we can say there's the annual budget, and every month bathole malingaga, and it remains that way. That's another way to skin the cat. But doing a percentage somehow incentivizes them to collect, because like this year now, the incentive for them to try and get the target, I think, is going to be tough, because the target is, with the crisis in Iran, the target is Mbamba. It's high. And so who knows, maybe by God's grace they get it, but you might find now they're saying, oh, we can't get the target, let us just relax now. Whereas now, if we are saying a percentage, that relax doesn't come in, because they know just to be able to pay salaries, we need to chase, and we need to make sure that we get money to be able to pay salaries. So it still brings that incentive element in if it remains a percentage. I think percentage base is the smartest way to go. Honourable from Hlambeni was asking about decisions taken by Psycho Council. As was said by the Chair, I think it'll come in the regulations. ERS, cash flow should affect all. I think I've touched on that. I think the best is to actually make sure we don't actually hurt them if the cash flow is tight. And I think his fear that they might relax, and that's why I think keeping a percentage and keeping the bonus will make sure that we don't get that element of relaxing. Honourable Chair, you came in with some final questions, was to say that ERS bonuses, will they also take? So, and where the current bottlenecks, and so I think we will definitely continue with the ERS bonuses, and in my opinion will be, Honourable Chair, and that is that the bonuses can be taken, but to be honest, I'm not sure. We'll check when we unpack it, whether the bonuses can be taken. I presume the bonuses will still be paid from government if the target is reached, or are they going to take from the squammer? It's part of the budget amount, yes. So it means if they reach it, they will then have to get the bonuses in that case. But again, like I say, we'll just be very clear when we unpack it. And then where are the current bottlenecks? We've got lots of bottlenecks, Honourable Chair. At the moment, the bottlenecks is sometimes, the bottleneck in this case we're trying to preempt is government sometimes running out of cash, and you somehow, something is more important that month and you delay. We often don't pay them, or we don't not pay them, it's just sometimes we pay them late. So you find that instead of them getting the money on the 19th so they can pay salaries on the 22nd, you find they're only getting their money by the 25th or the 28th. And anybody in jail, if you are used to getting your salary, even if you get it before month end, if you are used to getting it on 22, you are by 22, you know what I mean? You are waiting for that money. And even if you say, no, well, it's not month end yet, we're giving you to 28th, people don't understand that. It creates a lot of discomfort in organization when you pay even 1 or 2 days late. It creates that stress, which is unnecessary. The person is no longer thinking of his work, he's now thinking about, am I getting paid this month? And you're creating a lot of stress in the system if you do that. So hence we believe that this will be the neater way to de-stress the system. But yes, if we talk of bottlenecks in the tax system, we are really we're dealing with many bottlenecks in this holistic pack of legislation we're bringing to you, Honourable Chair, because we have found that there are many areas that need fixing for us to be able to collect better. People are not happy. ERS wants payment from government, and government doesn't pay. It's a very good question, Honourable Chair. On this one, what we need to understand and somehow make sure the message gets out to the population. If you are owing tax on invoices that government hasn't paid you for, you absolutely can go to ERS, explain to ERS to say, number one, I can't pay you now because government is owing me. Prove that government is owing you, and they will give you relief from paying straight away. Number two, you don't get penalties and interest if it is due from a government delay. That is an agreement we have with ERS. ERS applied that agreement. Our contractors, our people that work, our people that are paid, possibly paid by government, they need to understand this, and they must be able to have that discussion with ERS. That door is open, and that's the principle that we apply, Honourable Chair. But people don't know it, I think, because the problem, the VAT system says the moment you invoice, VAT becomes due. And unfortunately, if you've invoiced government and you are waiting 60 days to get paid, you are expected to pay on the 25th day, you're supposed to pay your VAT, and you don't have that money with you, and it's not your fault. It's government. The same government that is asking for the tax is the one that's not paying you. And so we've got that mechanism where you can open, the doors open at the ERS, you go and you explain your situation, and you make sure that on a monthly basis you'll be reporting, you'll be in some kind of system, we're reporting, say this month, now I've received that money, I'm paying this one, I've received that money, I'm paying, you'll be in some kind of system there, but we are not charging you for late payments if it's the government. So just for clarity, but that's why it's a good question, because I know people are always asking me, and it seems like people don't know this. So it'll be very good for the citizens to understand that better, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Minister, thank you. And then, but I just want to emphasize the point that you've just addressed yourself to, the last one. You know, basoma business, lo munye wazasikonfronta sinemhlonishwa amadala. Wathi lento labayikhulumako la moyeni bathi bayenda abayendi. Na ufika le abafune ukubona kulikhunje nekubona uma ilanga lonke lapha. Ngishindwe ekhulunywa bosoma business. Lento lekhuluma ko minister, lesivele ngaphandle sithi ARS akakwende. Akabaniki le open door lokhuluma ngayo because ubathi uyabachazela ukuthi na kuhulumende uyangikweleta. Bathi abende. And it's so frustrating to some of us because bathi sasintshelile ninisembili. You know, antikhulumi letinto lapha ngoba thina siyathi sikubusiness. ARS is not interested. Ngokuthi siyabachazela, sibakhombe ukuthi nangu uhulumende uyangikweleta. Basibona bafuna imali yabo. So lokho nje minister ngiko ngithi would be happy nangabe kungaba emphasize because umuntu sofile ngabusoba business bemaswati labakhala kwenza ba ARS. Mhlonishwa wasekwini.
Siyabonga kakhulu Honorable Chair. Chair, ngicela nje ku right kulolo itekako nalobamba naye uyitekile kancane. Kwami nje Chair sekucela endvuneni nelibandla layo siyeva lokuthi uthi silulu sahulumende sishaya umoya usho njalo kude kodwa ke siyathi lokuthi kukhona lokungena komane kuphangise kuhambe masinyane ngaleti tsingo letikhona. Bengicela tshela ukuthi le lasikhona khona thine RDF micro kubi Chair kubi i-budget ithi kukahle imali titawungena konke kwasethwa kahle but reality kude lutho they don't even have fuel to check naku lesikhulumako ongemalanga ukuthi iyeti service kude singacela Chair ukuthi indvuna kulolide lelide lenalo imani babone ngaloko lokuncane lebabona ngako to just to keep this thing moving. Kubhlungu when sive sesibona ukuthi sekufile kubhlungu kakhulu and babona lula nababona lama projects emile nathi nje umhlonishwa bebayokhipha labanye namuhla. It's terrible. So asiyidzingi le crisis. So siyati minister ukuthi how hard it is for you but we are pleading with you. They don't even have fuel to go and see the projects. So siyacela ndvuna ukuthi manje in your prioritization of payments umane uba prioritize nabo. Siyacela minister. Thank you.
Mhlonishwa DS.
Siyabonga Chair. It's two issues. Lena Chair ngicela le sanza ukukhuluma nje namhlonishwa Alex. Sicela ukuthuma wena Chair. Lapha enduneni seningene nje kumeni nikhulumisa. Probably singayi kubuyela siconclude nathi ndzaba lesitkhulumisa namhla. If ningabe senreche consensus na minister siyakwethemba Chair utasibuyela nempendulo letawuvakala. Kulesi two bengifuna ukuchecka ukuthi kunayo submission la ikhulumako lagcine ngayo honorable minister le VAT nabo relief mawukoletana na hulumende. Is it not possible ukuthi kube njengoba usho lo mthetho ukuthi i-VAT charge on invoicing bese usincenye subsection number 2 bese uyayifaka ke le clause lo ichaza ko honorable minister njengoba basho vele abantu bathi awu lenzaba lena masufikele na sekuthathwa awulanda salubhalela comgen lena bonana na comgen sengedulu kwethu you move from pillar to post mase ufika ARS. That is the side of the business people na ARS uba neside la kakhe base kuba nale street lekungilona qiniso. So in the absence of lokho bengifuna nje kuchecka ukuthi would it hurt lo mthetho ngoba naku sine opportunity yalo yekulungisa ukuthi sivele kube in writing lokuthi ma ungabe ukoletana na hulumende these are the stages that you must go through. I thank you Chair.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa Vilane.
Ngiyabonga mhlonishwa Chair kuthola leli thuba.
ngaba kongeta nje kuncane kona labakhuluma ngobuhlonishwa kungeko umhlonishwa chair. Asathi ukuthi minister ngasibambisa kanjani noma ke labo labakweletekayo ngohulumende nabangabanika kind of like a certificate, because labanye uthola ukuthi sebatholile eminye imisebenzi but just because bakweleta ngale ngeke babanike i-tax clearance and nyala awusathenda reach now the tax clearance. And lo babenda ukuthi babe worse off kakhulu ngoba uthola lo muntu so ugathe i-payment but ngeke awende lo mnye umsebenzi ngeke ukuthi ude i-tax clearance still usakweleta i-ERS. Nalapho besingacela chair sicela wena vele ukuthi uyosehlela ngelibonza sihlala lengendasi lama contractors acolele ngendasi la sihlala khona sesiyawanyenyela noma sesingena ekhaya sesingena ngetimoto letingasito ngoba wangena nje sebangena sebatokutshela tinkinga tabo nal order ngangilitholile litholwe ngizibani just because ngeti tax clearance. I've worked nginayo imali, it's been 3 months so la ngiyithola. Ngiyabonga chair.
Honorable Minister, you may respond, but ngicela kubuya kulenza bonuses, Minister. To me, it's inconceivable ukuthi level feel siyabanika 4%, but bese banika ama-bonuses. You can imagine ukuthi uma ngabe sikuleso simo, because phela asingabaleki Minister ukuthi ERS is still a government entity. So if the government iconic ukuba nemali to kwenda le imisebenzi, on the one hand kuyajokotelwa kunikwa nema-bonuses, I think there is something lokho. So we may have to consider doing something with legislation, at least in that area. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Look, Honourable Chair, I think it does come down to a discussion. In fact, sorry, I'll start with your last question first. It does come down to a discussion of, even though we're in cash flow constraints, we still need to do the right thing. And I'll use an example as here comes SACO receipts. We've committed, we've signed an agreement with the civil servants, Kuti, we're going to pay that back pay of 85% in July. Now, the truth is, I can promise you, I've got more urgent payments than that 850 million, which I would love to actually pay, like micro projects. Yeah, I would love to put money towards. So, what can we do? But the problem is when you've made a commitment as government and you've given a firm date as government to now get to that date, the money is there, and now you start saying "aish" and you start scratching your head. You start creating a lot of instability. You start creating distrust. I know you can say there's distrust on the other side, but at the same time, we've made a commitment here. And it's a very similar, and that's why I'm saying, unfortunately, we have to pay the civil servants the 850 million when it comes in from SACU, because it's been identified over a year ago. Say this July, SACU payment will pay the 85%. So unfortunately, we have to stick to this kind of commitments. And the bonus is a very similar discussion to that, Honourable Chair, where if we've made an agreement with ERS to say, and a collective agreement which is signed with the union, is to say we'll set a stretched bonus, a stretched target. It's not to say ERS says, oh, Minister, next year we'll collect 18 billion. I say, oh, great, okay, you'll get a bonus on 18 billion. We don't do that. We say to them, if you collect 18.7 billion, now you'll get a bonus. So the bonus is not just for doing their job. The bonus is for going over and beyond the target to be able to reach it. And hence, they haven't reached it for 5 years, or they've reached it once in the last 5 years, because really we stretch it. In fact, this year, to put it, because of Iran now, we've stretched it too far. And I'm scared that they're going to just lose incentive because they can see this target, for this target. So Mr. Chairman, again, this is debatable, I suppose. Is the bonus right or wrong? But the bonus is structured as if there isn't a cash flow crisis. Now, I know you add the cash flow crisis to it, it looks maybe awkward, but one can't look at everything from a cash flow crisis perspective. You need to look at what is the right thing to do, and then now unfortunately, we've got a cash flow crisis. I know I'm not convincing you, Honourable Chair, but I'm giving you the motive behind it, why we do it, and why we still think it is the right thing to do. But let me go into the questions. Honourable from Ugwini to say micro has got nothing. First of all, Mr. Chairman, what I must declare, and what micro projects, and I know, and I love micro projects, please don't get me wrong. I believe they're doing a great job. The reason why I fully support a lot of the funding going to micro projects is because they work efficiently, they work quick, and it's cost effective what they do. So I fully support them. But the rule with micro projects has always been they do not put a contractor in place until they have the money in their bank. Something changed on the chairperson, so which means we had at some point, we had a crisis. We allowed them to spend because they didn't have the money, but we allowed them to put some contracts in place to put some roofs onto schools, because schools opening saying the money's come from NDMA, the money got released, they got the money from NDMA. Once they had permission to put roofs on schools without the budget in their bank account, and since that day now, it's just the gates have burst open and they are now issuing contracts, putting contractors in place all over the place without the money in their bank account. And unfortunately, now that we're having a cash flow crisis or cash flow, it's not even a crisis maybe yet, it's a cash flow tightness and a cash flow constraint, we are having, must watch out how we put things. But at the same time, it's now making a cash flow tightness, it's making it a crisis because now we're having all these contractors out there that have now been put to work and they did not have the money in the bank account. So unfortunately, we are going to have to bring good practice back to micro projects. And micro projects, the ones that are out there, stop issuing any new contracts. Let's get whatever money you get, let's pay the contractors that are there. And only when they are paid and the money's in your account, like you've done for the last 20 years, do you only then put a contractor in place. I really believe, Honourable Chair, we have to bring that principle back into the practice of how we work with micro projects. So, but the truth is, on a weekly basis, Honourable Winnie, we and Mr. Chairman, we honestly do what we can for micro. They are far behind at the moment. I'm not even going to try and defend that they are not. They are far behind. But we understand the pressure. We understand the crisis. But unfortunately, if it's a matter of do you keep the lights on? Or do you pay micro, or do you pay salaries, or do you pay or do you pay debt? Do you pay micro? Unfortunately, those other things, if you don't pay them, it's game over. It's a much your small problem becomes a massive problem. So unfortunately, we pay what we can, but they are not at it's not like it's game over if you don't pay them this week. So for that reason, unfortunately, these amounts roll, and they do get there. Honourable Chair, so again, I think Honourable DS did say, because I understand it's a massive problem out there with micro projects being stalled and contractors leaving site. I do get that, and that's why we're trying to raise the money to be able to settle it. And like I say, something might come out soon, but as we sit here, it is still very tight. Put something in legislation, I think, is what the DS is recommending. Obviously, we can consider that, we can discuss that, and to see what we can do along those lines. And then Honourable Villani was saying, give government suppliers some sort of tax clearance. I think, let me actually just be very clear, Honourable Chairperson. We need to understand that government about a year and a half ago changed how we handle VAT on government suppliers and government projects. No longer does a government supplier get VAT, which means that ERS does not demand VAT from government suppliers. So VAT is not our problem here. VAT is deducted from source, which means that when ERS pays a supplier, they've got a supplier that's done a job for 20 million, the VAT is 3 million, they pay ERS the 3 million directly, and they pay the contractor the 20 million directly. So which means that there's no longer that. So which means the contractors no longer have a VAT problem, but they still sometimes have an income tax problem. So sometimes you find that they've done work, you come to year end, or you get to mid-year when you must pay mid-year taxes, and you find there now it's tight for paying income tax, and that's maybe where tax clearance certificate comes in. But we have dealt with the VAT one, because at the same time what we sometimes found was suppliers take the VAT and then it gets eaten as well. It doesn't get the portion that should be going to ERS doesn't go. So ERS, even though they might not be getting it, they can claim. So all the input VAT they can claim from ERS. ERS does pay that, and Treasury then pays them the VAT. So we have averted the problem, the VAT problem, which was by far the biggest problem, but the income tax one is still an issue, and that's where we're saying the door is open for them to come and talk. But that is really much less of a crisis than the VAT crisis. I think that's more or less catching the responses, Honourable Chair.
No, that's fine, Minister. Before I allow you to proceed to the next phase, I just want to make sure that maybe speak a little bit about, in defense of micro projects, we as the government, or should I say the executive in this particular case, and again, with very good intentions, I believe, there have been storms that have hit numerous schools in this country. numerous schools. We go there as the executive. When you go there as the executive, anibukeli nje kuzocha no sizatoqala le process microprojects tofanele tenderishe kunjani. You say microprojects abo uvala isikolo tomorrow bantwana batawufunza. You see, and it's not one school. Kuphuphu kwetindlu kwabanjani. The government does not wait for that lokujana. Vele ihambe na microprojects uthi yenda naku kufuna ukwenda. And then nasokwendekile lokho bese sithi microprojects uzowende sophumile endleleni. Obviously utawuphuma minister, because once naqala kwendeka lokho kanjalo labantu batayispend. Sisuka emkhosini omkhulu unyalo. Public works are busy and imgwaqo. And I can assure you, and you know it. Ema bills letter la ulolo imali losoyifuna. My goodness me. And abakayendi yonke le process ehlala bende ngoba sekujakiwe ukuthi phuthumani la bakwenda nyalo kwamanzini uhamba kamnanzi nje lakho esedolobheni. You know, uhamba kamnanzi la kule stress lamakhulu. But I'm saying, Minister, kunalawo ma situations kungasiko ukuthi micro projects kumbe udzangeme noma sophuma azatent into ngendlela yakhona. It is the government letshela micro projects fulelani lesikolo agijime ngenhloko micro projects akhohlet nyawo. Bekufuna nje ukuremark that one, Minister. Not that I want you to respond. But traditional ngabe kude bengidawucela induna lehloniphekile ukuthi siqhubeke nemsebenzi, Honorable Minister. The next one is ungaveta mthetho.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. Ngifuna ukusekela lephuzu lakho lolushoko. Nyalo nje kunabo lungundu laba bita abo 200 million. Aba budgetela. Ekugcineni kwakhona gcina le mali lesisicelile sekutawuphela sesita ukhanzi inkundla zathola bloho linye. The other money ithethwe ngala ama project ecabinet aqhamuka necabinet. Kuthi ngicela ukuthi into leti sitibuke kahle micro nje nyalo senicala minister nethi hey micro akendi kahle funa kube nemali icala bese uyasebenza. How about the project lendabe leyafuna ecabinet? Kuyasilimata thina sengathi asisaperform as ma MPs. Ngiyacela nje sikubuke minister. Siyabonga.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa. Honorable Minister, now we move on to preamble, income tax amendment bill, members of parliament and designated office bearers, pension fund amendment bill, and fuel tax amendment bill in that order. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Let me go through those preambles. So as you said, Honourable Chair, the first one is Income Tax Amendment Bill number 7 of 2026. The Ministry of Finance submit the Income Tax Amendment Bill number 7 of 2026 in consideration for the Honourable Committee. The Income Tax Order of 1975 provides the legal and regulatory framework for the levying, administration and collection of personal and corporate income tax on a source basis. It aims at generating revenue for government, ensuring that there is equitable income redistribution. This amendment seeks to clarify the meaning of Eswatini source income, revise the threshold of permanent establishment, and enhance information sharing by ERS with public authorities, provide for the taxation of gains arising from disposal of business assets, align timelines for the remittance of withholding tax, reduce administrative penalties, and provide for matters incidental thereto. Section 2, the legislation currently has an ambiguous term as pointed out by the decision by the Revenue Tribunal in awarding a case against ERS, stating that Eswatini sourced income is not defined in legislation. To avoid such decisions, it's prudent for the policymaker to insert a definition as such. It has further been noted that the definition of permanent establishment allows non-resident contractors with short contracts to be assessed at the end of a tax year, which poses a risk to them declaring a loss. Yet if the period is to be extended from the current 30 days to 90 days, there's definitive revenue accruing to government through withholding tax at 15%. Section 5, in order for ERS to expand their mandate of revenue collection and administration, exchange of information with other stakeholders is a key driver. In this regard, the order is amended to legalize the inclusion of other key stakeholders that are custodians of permanent taxpayer information. Section 7, a new paragraph aimed at aligning with the introduction of taxation and disposal of business assets is proposed to be added in Section 7. This makes it legal that gains from the disposal of a business asset be liable to tax. Section 32B, 32C, and 32D, these sections are open to multiple dates on which the withholding tax will be remitted to the CG, and this amendment seeks to fix the date at a specific day for any month following the transaction having been made. The second schedule, this amendment was brought for consideration by Parliament in 2023. However, Assembly did not deliberate on it, yet Senate did, and disposed that the alternative penalty be reduced from 250 emalangeni to 50 per day. During the publication in the Gazette, the figure was printed at 200 emalangeni. This, through a corrigendum, a proposal was made to the Honourable Speaker to the effect that this penalty be reduced to 50 emalangeni per day. This is in line with what we were talking about earlier, where there was some clarity needed on this point. In line with this bill seeks to ensure that the existing tax administration loopholes are closed. The Honourable Committee is therefore requested to approve, to consider this bill to facilitate the attainment of the stated objectives. So, right, the next one is now the Members of Parliament and Designated Office Bearers Pension Fund, the pension fund that's been set up for us as parliamentarians. The Ministry of Finance submits the Mopadu Amendment Bill of 2026 for consideration by the Honourable Committee. The bill seeks to amend the Members of Parliament and Designated Office Bearers Pension Fund Act 2013 so as to prescribe a new rule for the payment of annuities to re-elected or reappointed members of the fund. Specifically, this new provision states that a member who is re-elected to Parliament or reappointed to a designated office for a second term shall not be paid by the fund the annuity benefit, and that such fund's benefits shall be preserved by the fund. Currently, a member is entitled to an annuity payment for the previous term, irrespective of re-election or reappointment into office, and this has put strain on the fund. However, this new rule provides for a modified approach for members being re-elected or reappointed for a third term, as such members shall receive as an annuity from the fund monies that accrued during the first term, while monies accrued during the second term shall be preserved by the fund. Finally, with respect to a member who is re-elected to Parliament or reappointed to a designated office for the fourth or subsequent term, the fund shall pay to that member pension benefits as a lump sum upon the third term. Benefits accruing to the member relating to the fourth or subsequent term shall be preserved by the fund to be payable to that member upon separation from the fund. We now get to the Fuel Tax Amendment Bill of 2026. The Minister of Finance submits a Fuel Tax Amendment Bill 2026 for consideration by the Honourable Committee. The introduction of the Fuel Tax Act of 2022 was meant to give the Commissioner General powers to collect fuel tax and ensure that wholesalers comply as per the dictates of the Act. Further, the Commissioner General initially had the authority limited to collect the fuel tax, but did not have the powers to enforce it in the event of non-compliance, but was subsequently given appropriate powers to ensure compliance by wholesalers of petroleum products. The current setup dictates that the fuel tax becomes due and payable after the sale to other licensed wholesalers or retailers. Such an arrangement means that fuel tax is not collected at importation. This is despite the fact that all petroleum products are imported into Eswatini. It has been realized that fuel tax collected is decreasing by the day, whereas the numbers of consumers is increasing. It is for this reason that a decision has been made to collect fuel tax at importation. Consultations have been made with shareholders, or stakeholders rather, including the Ministry of Natural Resources and Energy and the Eswatini Revenue Services, and concurred with the pattern of increasing consumption numbers against decreasing fuel tax collected. Analysis reflects that the country will benefit from increased revenue resulting from the collection of fuel tax at importation, as opposed to the obtaining situation where imported fuel is not fully accounted for, as fuel tax is currently levied at pump price. Furthermore, levying fuel tax on future locally manufactured petroleum products would contribute positively towards increased revenue. In line with this, the bill seeks to ensure that revenue leakages are closed through the collection of fuel tax at importation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Nayo ke bahlonishwa seyifundzile Minister imithetho lemithathu mhlonishwa Nkampalala Cruiser
Ngiyabonga.
lo munye ngila Nkampalala
Oh yeah. Ngidawukhulumisa lengi-2 la ngine-interest ikhona. Interest yami leyo ngileya kusuka lapha ku-200 siye ku-50. Kumba asikudumisa ngakukhuluma kakhulu lokho. Uye lo 50 noma nje-ke nayo lo 50 ashaya. Kumbeke ngingakhali ngoba khona lokubonakala ukuthi ukwendile minister. But-ke ngifuna minister lokwendekako ungathi ukuchazele ngale but asengikuphinde. What happened lemthetho la kushaya khona? Lama contractors afika ngene phansi kwema contractors la sebenda angibekise bo iwet nabo bani. Then kube ngilohulumende la ngabhadali. Ngila usho khona minister ukuthi noma bangicharge lo 50 kufuneka ngibuye siyohlala sikhulume do bevele ngabhadalwa nguhulumende nami khona la. Angathi umva kahle minister kulo 200 lokho siyakudumisa vele wehla yehlile kodwa nje eish le mali letana nangesonto kufuna ngema weekend ingadali ngoba phela kude lo suka 70 yena lo 50 nemntaka boshwa ngelisonto. Ngibuye minister uthinta indaba lapha nginesilonda vele ngoba nemeli wami useta kuwe. La indaba yokungabhadalwa mawuceda eParliament 2013 minister ngilosibhekene nayo ukuthi kaze kushana lemithetho le ingabe imali yethu sitayithola nalaba yithola labanye babuye emahhovisi babhadalwa ngile same minister. Ngithe ngiyahlola ukuthi bayithola yonke imali yabo babuyele emahhovisi mabaphuma baphinde bayithola imali yabo kanti bongathi le mali yabo njengoba banikeke bangaphoint wakubuyela emahhovisi Dathi mase baphuma ibambe minister ngabe minister wayibamba yini le mali ngoba so uyakhuluma nangayo la le mali ukuthi at the time ngibuya noma ngiwena rukhetho ngiyaze ngiyithole egcinene le mali yami lokufanele ngiyithole lamaphandle noma ngiphi lesingayitholanga but njeke minister kule ndaba yethi imali le yibuke lokuthi thina sabanjelwa le yama that time sinanabo labo chairman la ayibuye le mali yethu minister siyawuhlala isilonda bese siyayiteka ke nayo lesikhuluma ngayo nayi yanyalo kodwa leya lesingayitholanga bayithola lalabani that was wrong minister practice lengekho emthethweni noma siye emithethweni bayibuka ayisi practice le kahle ethi lo myayithola lebe nginaye office abuye la thole the same office lenkulo mina ngingayithola that practice minister ungaphumi wobuyi clarishile mawuthola imali ngale practice le minister ngiyabonga.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa Deputy Speaker ukuthi mhlonishwa Dr. Bomnkosi nemhlonishwa welcome and then Mafutsweni.
Siyabonga leso sihlalo nesiphinze sibonge ne-preamble yenduna. Maybe ngidzinga kuba ku-educate-eka kunayi ngifuna na minister uyastrugglisha ukungihlola ngala buka lapha ku screen minister. Ngifuna ngi-educate honorable minister chair. Angiva le nchazelo yana i-tax amendment ukuthi this amendment was brought for consideration by Parliament in 2023. However, Assembly did not deliberate on it, yet Senate did and proposed that it be reduced from 250 to 50. Maybe ngifuna angirefreshe imemory ukuthi yecanjani eAssembly ngoba ke ayizange ikhulunyiswa njani eAssembly ithole seyikhulunyiswa eSenate and siyade money bills iSenate I mean iAssembly ngiyona ine upper hand kuma issues ama bills of this nature so kungirefresha nje imemory ukuthi what transpired and how eventually igcine seyiphasa kulo 200 kanti nayo iSenate beyikhulume nga 50 emalangeni ngileyo nje i clarification engifuna ko chair the other bills kudele ngakusho kiwo.
Siyabonga Mhlonishwa Dokotela.
Siyabonga Chair. Firstly, maybe umuntu angabonga leya reduction from the 200 to 50. It's recommendable. Chairperson, ngoba vele eMaswati bekakhala bekasabona ngabo 100 million la koletwako. So it's naloko ku iseseyinengana, but nje ke we are hoping lokuthi iyehlile, which is much better. Ngifuna kukhulumisa naye fuel tax amendment lelekugcineni lesithathu. Lokuthi vele kungathi kungcono lokuthi le fuel tax ay collected from importation. Vele na utayikoleka sengithengisile. Vele ngisho nami ukuthi ngithengisela okuncane. Bese le tax ye levy ba incane. So it's much better. Kutalisita levy lokuthi likweleke le na ingena nje even, because lama volumes will still be the same, will be known. Kutaba lula. Ngicabanga ukuthi kungaba ngiloko nje.
Siyabonga Mhlonishwa, welcome.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Chairperson. Nami ngifuna ukukhulumisa lenzaba yale income tax amendment, particularly kule issue yalo 200 emalangeni to 50 emalangeni, and then we're hoping to 25 emalangeni now. Honorable Chairperson, I've spoken to you about this one a couple of times, and I've also spoken to the Minister. I brought that myself Hansard on this issue. Hansard vele yakhomba lokuthi the House never pronounced itself on the schedule yona, the 200. The others were reduced to the 25 emalangeni. But this one, only this one. And kwaba contradiction, the House said onke ama fines kufune ehle, but kwasala le. And uyabona lokuthi okay, asengishiya lapho ngithi then Senate yafika yayibamba le nawo ukuthi House kwecena ngo200 emalangeni. So the message from Senate beyithi 25 yak 50 emalangeni. That was the message from Senate. But still kwaphasa kwaba ngo 200 emalangeni. Kuthiwa iHouse never pronounced itself on that one, but ngale spirit sayo indlu and the finance committee beyise manje onke ama fines akehle. Then kuba yini wasala njani 200 emalangeni. But then let's come to the corrigendum. Corrigendum usho kulungisa error. So you are correcting an error from 200 to 50 emalangeni. What about the people that have been affected by this error? Those that were made to pay the 200 emalangeni. How then are they reimbursed, or how are they taken care of because of this error? Because the corrigendum is an admission of the error. And also, Chairperson, benga proposal ukuthi phela like the other fines, bese kuba nale cap ukuthi ayengi 10,000, but the 200 bekuthela wayeka. Even the addendum, the amendments letako nyalo, there's still no cap. Nakhona lapho lo 25 emalangeni bengathi mina ayibe khona phela le cap. Let's say at least lo 10,000 emalangeni. Kuthi wafika 10,000 sekuyema. Honorable Chairperson, I think for me ngulo kwanyalo, but ngithe mase ukhuluma kakhulu sesifike le workshop sesikhuluma sihamba ngayinye lama bills and the clauses. Thank you, Chairperson.
Sibonga Mhlonishwa Mthetho.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo ngami nje kuthathu. Kwekucala ngilenza 200 to 50 emalangeni. Mina nje ngasemafutheni la ucela ukuthi le asiyise ku10 emalangeni. Inengi kakhulu ehukweni phela nayo imali ngikutophika vele Mhlonishwa. Inengi kakhulu nje le mali le. Nanyalo bantu badliwe abanalutho ngenzaba ya 200 emalangeni. 50 emalangeni solomnengi. Nanyalo nangathi angiphe 50 emalangeni banengi labedena la. kepha 10 emalangeni ungqono ngoba phela siyabambisana la lenzaba in fact laba amaswati akayifuni kaya at least 10 emalangeni ungqono than lo 50 emalangeni nami ngiveta lebangiphathise kona ukuthi at least nabe ikhona akube ngithene emalangeni hayi ngeduluka lapho sibuye Mhlonishwa ngibuke wena sihlalo ngoba ngathi uyangonisa ukwini endzabeni yalapha kaMophado Mhlonishwa ngicela sisayikhulumisa le nasesikhulumisa ekomidini mina lengakuveta yathi kuhle lokuthi kwakho ngilokudlile avenje bakunikete nje nangabe ubuyile noma ukabuyi thola nasekuphela isikhathi sakho kube kuwe ukuthi uthathe i-decision wena ukuthi hayi abachubeke bakubekele kufa kunengela ngephandle kanti ke imali yakho na utidlele wena usekhona kungcono lokho lenza utawubekelwa into yakho yawugcina seyinetinkinga inyalo nisibambele kahle chairperson kaMophado but uyakwanza incebe yobo songekho laba bakhona basihlome parcel blow kwakho nje ngilokudlile abakunikede ngesikhathi kwegcina minister wami endzabeni ngiyajabula endzabeni yalo petrol ukuthi atax wena kasangena kepha nje kufuna ke bese nenda la mechanism ukuthi kumonitor ukuthi labantu bangabese laba ulethako sebadulisela laba labathengako lakhaya ngesimanga sekuthi bataxiwe egedeni ngicela ukuthi lokho nikhona ukuthi nibonisane nebaka natural resources ungabese nathi nifaka lokho laba sebathi hayi isita recover ukuthi nathi asiphakamise ama prices siyacela nje minister.
Siyabonga Mhlonishwa Nkosi Ngumenzi and then Mhlonishwa Sehlambeni.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo nekuvusela sona sihlalo. Mina ngitawunema comments lapha kule ndzaba yakaMophado. Kutibuta nje ukuthi ingabe stakeholder meeting ake angejoyine ama stakeholders kuloluntshintsho lolubonakala ukuthi lifuna kwendeka lapha. Maybe kwesibili nje ngaba ukuthi ngincenye ku support kugudluta kufana njengaloku kwaMhlonishwa semafutheni lokuthi ngicabanga ukuthi kumcoka ukuthi umuntu atikhethele yena ukuthi ufunani nabe imali yakho yafuna ukuthi ichubeke ihlale ayichubeke ihlale but kungabi nemithetho lotawukubamba ukuthi ngeke vele ukhone kuyithatha imali yakho ngoba tidzingo tethu dinyenti ngimlo watiwe ukuthi ngifuna kuyindani imali yami nangabe yami bengithi nje ngisicela lokho ukuthi umuntu akakhone ukuthi atendele imali ngemali yakhe la ifuna lofuna kuyigcina ihlale akube kuye but singabi ukuthi so upenalize ukuthi noma ubuyile noma kunjani. Ngiyabonga lo sesihlalweni.
Mhlonishwa Sehlambeni.
Ngiyabonga sihlalo. I think kule yama stakeholders isengcoverishe le honorable chair so ngibitele umntwana Nkosi bengifuna ku-checka vele sihlalo lokuthi ngabe asati phikisini ngala kuMophado because nakuhulumende besikhala ngako lokuthi seyiphelile phela i-term yakho is only 5 years so lokwendeke nje ku 5 years akubuye kimi kuphele kungabe sekuyang-affecta ukuthi because bese kuthi kutenda sa punishment lokuthi mina ngibuyeleni lokuthi angeke ngisayithola le benefit lena ngalokuthi mina ngibuyile bese kutheklishe kanjalo angathi lokuthi ke kumbe nceba atasichazela lokuthi kugcine sekuba kubona lokuthi ungasaholi wena noma sowulapha leni ngifuna ku-checka sihlalo lokuthi after i-presentation i-preamble ya minister yekuthi i-Senate opted for 50 emalangeni while sine besime kulo 200 ngabe vele isisekhona yini i-room yekuthi singehla nakulo 50 emalangeni because kunako lokukhala ngifuna ku-checka nje kuloko lokuthi ngabe sesevumelekile noma sesifuna ukuthi align noma sesilethela ukuthi asithi align naloku kweSenate. Thank you chair.
Siyabonga Mhlonishwa Sengutseni.
Ngibonge Honorable Chair, sengikhavarishekile kuloko ekugcina kwaNhlambeni. I think iphathi lenye lebengifuna ukukhulumisa ngile le capping lo 50 emalangeni noma ngi-25 emalangeni abe capped somewhere. Kukhona i-principle okuthiwa in duplum rule. I think in duplum lokuthi le interest ngeke beyinkulu kunale capital lo oyishayo. Ngicela si implemented that rule.
Mhlonishwa siyabonga mhlonishwa sewukwini.
Cha ngiyabonga Chair. Chair, I think asibonge Chair lokuthi sive sisicorrectite kule view lebesinaso ya 200 emalangeni, because that pressure has come from the public. It has not come from us. Sine bezivumelele sidinga 200 emalangeni because sas appreciate the objective lokuthi imali yahulumende ayibuyi imali yahulumende ingahlali kakhulu le kuwe ngoba siyayidzinga ngala kuthi usebenza indaba tahulumende. So nase sibonakala sesehla sesiphinze futhi ngathi sifuna ukuphikisa lokuthi le mali yahulumende aqhubeke ihlalele kulabantu ngoba le ndvo yokuthi baphangise bayilethe le mali kude lokubalumako lokuthi le mali ibuye. So it's a injena lendvo. You never win with this thing. But at some point the money must be there. Kumele bekhona lokubakhona to say to people imali yahulumende lekuwe ayibuye. Kulena yamophato I understand the spirit ngoba i-risk yekukhipha imali every time bantu baphuma uyasilimata lesikhwama. Uyasilimata lesikhwama ngoba lesikhwama sinema assets lesi. Noma lama assets akho wakhe kulo 5 years noma akho ngilabanye some years ago, it must be sustainable. Kumele nabo bayikhone kuyithatha le mali yakho bayoyi-investa somewhere. Itobuya yakhe indalo for the fund kutoqhubeka ikubhadale wena lo wahlala ekhaya. But nase sitawuthi nje within 5 years lokutawenda kutaba lukhuni for maphato to invest imali yebantu. Ngoba batatshela ukuthi i-risk le mali yenu every 5 years niyaphuma nenithatha nizishwe kusayilendvo ilenga le. So this kumele sibuke kahle lo mthetho nasushaya kuthi sithini kulesikhwama. How sustainable is this fund to continue to pay others? Because bakhala ngaloku nje sebabonile ukuthi lo shwe le mali yabo awukhoni kuyidalisa etilulwini ethiphilako. So ngicabanga ukuthi mhlambe ngaba ngiloko nje chairman lengasi asikubukeni naseso sodideka. But kuya 200 emalangeni mhlambe lo 50 it's better devil than the other.
Yabo mhlonishwa Mantunda.
Ngiyabonga Che. Nobe secishe lokuningi sengikhavadi. Sekungaba nje kuphinza labakushito. Ngicale ngale ya 200 emalangeni. Ngicabanga sibevele Maswati sekhameke kakhulu. Noma besingehla nje sesifike lo 10 emalangeni. Ngicabanga kungaba kahle kube relief vele ngoba cishe bese sileke kakhulu kathi Maswati akhala ngale mali ngicabanga kude la khona mhlambe ngicabanga sitawulimala khona. Ngibuye kule yamophato noma sebayichazile nami ngiyafisa lokuthi noma ngingadi kahle kodwa nje phela imali yakho losoyisebentile usuke sonayo iplan yakho ukuthi ufuna kendani. So nami ngingafisa nje lokuthi akanikwe lo lunga imali yakhe la isebentile ahambe yabone ukuthi wenda ini lokunye. Ngiyabonga Che.
Mhlonishwa welcome bofuna khuluma.
Ngiyabonga Chairperson. Ngifuna nje kungena lokusho umhlonishwa lishaba lokuthi iParliament ukuthi bantu akusi iParliament yavuma lo 200 emalangeni ukuthi hayi vele kahle. I think kune misfacts. But ngiyatlo ngoba ukhona wena chairperson but awukhuluma la nguwe chairperson we finance. Uthi kwente kani ndzaba 200 emalangeni. The house never agreed to 200 emalangeni. It never agreed to 200 emalangeni. And lokho nje asingakubeki ukuthi manje indlu yavuma izange imvuma 200 emalangeni indlu a day. But I'm hoping ukuthi nawe chair utawungena uclarify but ngifuna ukuqondisa lo ukuthi indlu never agreed to that. In fact indlu yathi onke ama fines even kule record kusho njalo ukuthi onke ama fines ayehla. Ngiyabonga chairperson.
Cha kasibonge. Ta asibonge abahlonishwa. Ngicela kuqala ngale ndzaba le income tax. Ekwe ukuthi la nawubuka i-report ye finance committee kule ndzaba le iclear ukuthi yatsini i-finance committee noma ingatange ingena ukuthi ku second schedule bani but this matter was raised the 250 kokuthi ukhona yathi libandla le finance committee no akehle ngeke kulunga amaswada ngasibulala eningiyaphuma la ku Hansard ye parliament ngokuhamba kwalalelwa ngisho ivoice Chairman uyasho Chairman uthi emaswada ngasibulala ku Hansard yala parliament 2 weeks ago bayilale now asasithi ke because this matter yaqhamuka phenze kwaqhamuka nenzaba yokuthi le interest njengoba asho umhlonishwa I kept at least akuthi umuntu ungafika ku 10,000 angabese seyeqhubeka ingaphakami leyo mali leyo nangabe kumbe sobona sokweleta wakweleta 10 million yakep 10,000 yakep it's on record now asengithi ke kumbe abazange kumbe silaleleka nangabe kungazange kwente kanjani owazange si kuthiwa ihouse ayizange isho lutho all these records la khona akhuluma ukuthi ihouse yathini kulenzaba le now granted asasithi ke kumbe sesikubeka eceleni lokwe house sahamba sayolalela isenate yat ithi le report isenate yathi reduced to 50 emalangeni per day i-report ye le communication from senate bese seyibuya endlini then it becomes law sengumuphi ke lo lothi no sale kuba ngu200 kani phela kusho la ukuthi isenate yathi yona 50 emalangeni sengibani ke in between lothi akube ngilo 200 because thina kuthiwa sikasho lutho ishido kwisine thathi ngu50 yabuya ireport la nayibuya ireport azange iphikiswa kuthi no sithi thina kubilo ku 250,000 njengoba kubhaliwe. The question, Honorable Minister, is who then said or who then put the penalty ku 200 emalangeni? That is the fundamental question, because neither of the two chambers might be at 200,000, but people were charged 200,000. I'm sorry, 200 emalangeni per day. Now, bahlonishwa enzabeni yakaMopado. Maybe asengithatha ukuthi no, since I'm involved, futhi ngathunywa ngini. Asengidawuchaza ukuthi more than, yes, it is true. It is in the interest of the fund. The fund ilengeyena. It's not about ukuthi no mina ngithini as an individual. And two, it is not correct ukuthi this is a pension fund. Le pension fund le liyaqalwa sidlala. Ekubeni sesibonile ukuthi kusuka mina la ngiphume ngiphelele lesikhathi eParliament bese ngihamba ngiyobuna emagedeni. Ngoba sengiphelele lesikhathi eParliament. Yasiqala saqalwa the fund. Wayiqala Barnabas yaqhubeka yaba ngilokulengiko. Now, more than it is about the funding ngiyavuma, You don't want to collapse the fund. But at the same time, it is about you. More than anything, this is seeks to protect you because le mali as ihleli le ingena, accumulatela wena and is earning interest for wena ngani na because use gainful employment. Uqashiwe. So you don't want to say, no, lo ngiphinze ngabuya ngaqashwa. Sengifuna ipension. Ipension annuity ngokuthi uyidle ngalesikhathi songasekho gainful employment. That is the pension. The purpose of pension ngiloko. Angeke ukuthi ngiyahola ngalapha ngidla pension. Malunga hloniphekile. That is not in your interest as an individual. Ngiyathi ukuthi imali labanye bethu bayifuna kwendlula labanye. But ufuna bese siyadithiba nje. Ufuna bese siyadithiba because it's not about you. It's about yourself and your family. Lega mophato bahlonishwa kusetshenzwa tindzaba temalunga la njengathi. La njengathi nje. But ngenhlanhla lembi labese umdali uyawa recall. Lasawa recallile umdali. Lethi ngenza mathi igcwala le board tingcwalele kamophato. Angeke sibabuke kahle sibafese emehlweni siwo uyihlo. Wathatha le mathu ahola waphinze waqupha na yona le pension abe ahola. We're faced with those situations and you don't want to do that to yourselves. Nyalo kumnanzi kuba hey ayibuye yonke imali yethu kwethu ngesikudlile. No. No. So ngithi bahlonishwa. At the end of the day, whatever the case is, singa debate mina ngidama kusitane nekundvula nje emehlo based on experience lesasikubonile. And besides, you don't want to collapse a pension fund kanti useseqashiwe. Bese sokuthi no, sengifuna ukudla pension ngiseseqashiwe. That is not the purpose of a pension. Pension ngokuthi udle le mali ngalesikhathi sowuphumile ukwathi ukuphila kangcono. Anyway, that is my medal. Minister lotawuphendula mzane Nkosi. Mina nje ngiveta yakami no, mina ngisiye lo phendulayo nami ngilingisa nini. Ngenda yakami intervention. Nitawuqhubeka ningene. Honorable Minister, you may proceed. Nitawungena nje ngama supplementary end. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Your Honourable Chair, okay, so if you don't mind, I'm going to summarize, because there are a few very general questions along here, so I'm just going to summarize them. The first one being the 200 Emalangeni, 250 Emalangeni, 200 Emalangeni, 50 Emalangeni requests for 10 Emalangeni. First of all, let me just be clear, Honourable Chair, this is not neat. As government, we are not proud of how this is handled. This is an untidy element. Please believe me, there was no intent. We don't do that. We follow what Parliament tells us to do, and we try and get it right. What I understand, and that is that in the body of the Act, there were numbers that were changed, but this 200 was somehow, it's called hidden in a schedule. And in the schedule, it was 200, is what I understand. We can clarify this maybe when we get to workshop this. Apparently, it was 200. It was 250 in the body of the Act, but somehow the schedule was referring to 200. And in Assembly, it wasn't discussed, that schedule, because we discussed everything in the main Act. The schedule somehow, it is what I understand, and I might be wrong, what I understand is it wasn't discussed there. When it got to Senate, they said, no, itaba 50, because they then picked up that somehow everything was changed in the Act, but this one was not. As far as I know, Honourable Chair, if I recall correctly, when Senate's issues came back to the House, there were this one and a lot of other ones, and the recommendations were rejected by the House. I can't recall exactly, but this is what I think I recall. But we'll clarify all this. But the bottom line, Honourable Chair, and that is that we have to fix it. That's why we're opening it here, is to say, Vel, it's a problem. Honourable Welcome is spot on. He approached, he's spoken about this matter through the Speaker has spoken about it. The Speaker even himself has applied himself in this matter and understands it quite well. And at the same time, at some point, I was saying, Iris, are we applying it? They were saying, Minister, they're not applying it. But I'm hearing from the private sector and even from Speaker friends and Minister, it's being applied, this 200 Emalangeni. So again, we're going to have to then discuss it. If we then make a change, again, we've got two choices here. Do we go a corrigendum? Right now, my team at Fiscal is saying, Minister, we could do a corrigendum. Hence, I'm talking about a corrigendum. It opens the door, Honorable Welcome is talking to you, do a corrigendum now. Now you somehow have to, unscrambling an egg is quite difficult. You can't unscramble something that's scrambled. It becomes tricky. At the same time, we are putting it here because it must be fixed. And so we are pleading with the House, help us fix it. What's the right solution here? Now, Honorable Chair, to say what is the solution here? I think we must keep in mind what exactly this penalty is for, Honorable Chair. It's when an employer makes an agreement with an employee. I'm going to employ you for, let's just say, 10,000 emalangeni. They agree, employer is going to pay him 10,000. When payday comes, the employer says, Ganwam, you don't get 10,000, there's tax. 3,500 is non-taxable. You're now getting 6,500 above the tax threshold, 25%. Nyamkoka 1,500 from your mholo, and I'm paying it to the tax man. As the employer. The employee, he just gets his 8,500 emalangeni instead of the 10,000 agreed upon because it's his tax that is being paid on his behalf to the tax man. Instead, the employer says, hey, hi, while I'm battling with my issues, I'm keeping your tax in my pocket for a period of time while I'm battling. We are punishing the employers. Eswatini and employees, this is not touching them at all. We are not trying to punish any Eswatini that's being employed. We are touching businesses that are keeping tax that they are withholding from employees. So what we are saying is we need an indugu for this thing. If we say 10 emalangeni, honorables, honestly, they're going to say, oh, thank you. Hey, I'm going to make a lot more money from interest on this money than I'm going to pay for 10. I'll pay the 10 emalangeni and I'm going to make lots of cash because the business I come from, it's millions. PAYE is a figure which is in the millions. It's not lower. It's a big number. The moment companies think, oh, I'll rather pay the 10 emalangeni, we got much bigger problems here. And it's very wrong for an employer to keep PAYE from, which has been deducted from his employees. So please, honorables, work with us here. I'm not sure 50 emalangeni is right. I'm not sure 200, but let us discuss this at the workshop. Let us find out what's the right amount. But the truth is, if we make the ndugu too short, the ndugu is going to work against us instead of for us here. So please let us try and do the right thing on this one. Honorables, when it comes to Mapadu, I'll plead. Let us workshop this issue clearly. Just keeping in mind, honorables, that if you just from a financing perspective, if you have a fund that it accumulates short term, and if the fund gets depleted after 5 years and it starts again depleted, you can't invest that money for very good returns. You need a fund that it can have this, but the money, it must have money in it. If you have a fund that keeps cash in it, you get very good returns for members. And so here, for all of us, myself included, Mapadu needs to have a longer term cash in it to get a good return for us, for the money that we're even leaving for short term. If short term has got long term elements, it's got more. Anyway, we can talk about this, unpack it clearly. I'm sure when I looked at it, it felt like they were doing the right thing. And so let us try and see. They're trying to accommodate those that, Vele, you come in for one term and you go home, you're getting the best possible outcome. But if you are staying for more terms, then at least you are ensured that by the time you leave at the end of the term, you're getting something, but you've got some flexibility. It's a combination, I believe, that is the right thing. At the same time, leaving the fund with money in it so that even the short term, okay, so those were the two big issues, and I think I'll then discuss everyone's, but skip those ones as we go. Honorable DS was also talking about this one. Honorable Doctor was talking about the 50 emalangeni as well, but supported the fuel tax. Thank you for that, Honorable. Honorable, welcome. Also talking about the 50 emalangeni and what happened there. How we're going to back pay the corrigendum. You're right, it is a tricky one. We're going to have to look at that. And there should be a cap. I think it's a very good idea, Honorables. Let's maybe build a cap into it, is to say that if you are deducting, again, we must just be very careful that PAYE, you must understand, PAYE can be very big numbers, Honorable. PAYE could be, PAYE of my salary is whatever, 20,000. I don't know what the exact number is. But keep in mind, we don't want to incentivize employers to withhold this money. They are business people. If you say there's a cap of 10,000 emalangeni and they say, oh, let's keep my 20,000 for 5 years and there's a cap of 10,000, oh, Mnanzi, they're going to keep it. And they're going to pay the 10,000 after 5 years because it's easier than paying over my tax. So we just be careful, Honourables, we must do the right thing there.
Yes, Minister. Kulo 200 ngicela umchaze kahle ngoba 200 thine ERS umfaka kuyo yonke into but le ndlela umchaza ngakhona nyalo sekuhlukile. Uyabona umchaza ngalenye indlela Minister thine sathi uthi noma ungakayende emaphepha 200 kanti nyalo umchaza ngalenye indlela. Yes, ngiyabonga nje indlela umchaza ngakhona ukuthi sitova kahle. Encane singabe sichama nomqondo lo sound than before. But ke jakufuna kubhalwe phasi Minister ungabe uthi ukukhuluma ngemlomo ukuthi lo 200 bokhulumela nanga PAYE nako lokufuna ngiyakova lapho Minister ngiyabonga.
So Honourables, just for clarity, you are right. In the House of Assembly, a lot of these charges were reduced. We are applying the reduced charges. The only one that was not amended is the PAYE one. So as the acting chair was saying now, he was saying that it's not, it was broad, but the Assembly reduced all the other ones that affect Eswatini more directly. And those we were applying properly. There's no problem there. It was amended, those amendments were made. It was only this one that stayed on the side, the PAYE fine, is the one that was not amended. And again, I think Honourable Alec has got a point. We need to be careful. If we take it to 50 Honourables, we need to, we need to pitch it correctly. But this one is not affecting employees directly. It's affecting employers that withhold those payments. Having a cap is maybe a good idea, but like I say, watch out for businessmen. Sometimes they see an opportunity. The cap might mean that they're incentivized to withhold this money again. Honourable Mteta was saying maybe make a 10 emalangeni. I wouldn't suggest it, Honourables. Mopadu, a back pay portion. He's also asking, a good question, will what we are doing on the fuel tax possibly increase the price of fuel? It won't, Honourable. The fuel price in Eswatini is regulated. Unlike Skwahlante next door, recently they opened it to say the fuel pump can charge what they want. This is the base price, and people can compete. In Eswatini, we don't do that. We regulate the pump price as well in Eswatini. So which means that we are saying that you're going to pay tax here, and the pump price remains as it is at this stage. That's how we structure it. So to answer your question, it won't affect the pump price. Honourable Princess Ngozumenzi was asking, have stakeholders been engaged on the Mopadu one? I think the beauty of this one is stakeholders are being engaged as we sit here. We're engaging stakeholders and we are discussing with stakeholders. But I'm sure that they did something. But I'm saying is that the beauty is it's cabinet, and it's us here, and obviously there are the other ones. There will definitely, I'm sure that there was stakeholder consultation done at a certain level. But again, the main ones is us, or the bigger amounts are the ones that have to approve it. The members should have a choice regarding pension. You got a good point. Honourable Manzi was talking about the 50 Malangeni 2, which I think I've responded to. Honourable Ngutseni was saying the impludum rule, and he's right. We need to consider that. Maybe we'll look from the legal perspective. Does this apply? Which means that if the PAYE that are withheld was 1,005, the example I used, and the fine and the penalties get worse than 1,005, does this rule apply, and does that hurt them? It does apply. Okay, so which means that it's a good point. We need to then make sure that ERS doesn't say, okay, you withheld 1,005, but your penalty is 10,000. You know what I mean? We need to double check on that one. We then have Honourable Lushaba also talking about the same two things, the 200 Milangeni and the Mopado. Honourable Matunta, sorry, should be 10 Emalangeni and the Mopadu, and does it give them their money? Matunta, sorry. I'm worried I pronounced it wrong. I didn't see if I wrote A or a U there properly. I didn't write it properly. Honourable Chair, you were referring to the Hansard, what the Hansard was saying, and like I say, please, if you don't mind, we will absolutely clean this up now. We'll work out what the best way forward is in the workshop, and we'll apply that, and we'll really make sure we're done. I am confessing to the fact that I agree it wasn't neat. We should really have handled it differently. But just your direct question was, where does the 200 come from? The 200 was actually the amount in the schedule. Now, and that's where it shows we were making a mistake in the first place, because there was a 250 in the body of the Act for the PAYE fine. That we changed. But somehow in the schedule, this 200 remained 200. We didn't actually move it around. It was actually 200 and it stayed 200, is my understanding, Honourable Chair of this lot. And then I think, thank you very much, Chair. You just broadened our understanding of the of the Mopado one, and I think that is understood now. Thank you.
Supplementary questions, Mahlonishwa Kampalala.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think, Chairperson, the Honorable Minister needs to verify on the issue to say the 200 only applies to PAYE. Because the general feeling of the population, it's like the 200 apply anyway, on any default with ERS. Is it VAT? Is it income tax? Is it returns? The general feeling is like everything is 200. And if it is only for the PAYE, honestly, it makes a lot of sense. Because if it goes any less, people will benefit from defaulting. They will make money from it, and they will purposely do so. But the way it currently is, Chairperson, it is like they apply the same amount in everything. I don't know if it is totally different. The understanding, Chair, it's like that on the ground. Thank you, Chair.
The understanding or the practice? Lokunye bengithanda clarify Bahlonishwa, just for again taking the advantage of my other head. I'm happy in this room that two gentlemen who attended the stakeholder consultations, which we do regionally, number regions. Lenzabayelo Mtsetho law was brought up to the stakeholders, and bayibuka ngalendlela lengisanza kuyichaza ngayo ukuthi ibonelela bona, because it's about our membership. Kufanele abantu sibacabangele Bahlonishwa, because nangabe mina ngaba responsible ngemali ngiyabekisa akusho ukuthi umhlonishwa welcome is equally responsible. But not also umuntu akathathe isalary aphathe sathe pension. That does not apply anywhere in the world. It's a misnomer. That needs to be corrected. Ngoba lo muntu le salary yendela kusi akwati ukuthola pension, let them sit later in life. Mhlonishwa manzi. And then Mhlonishwa Matala.
Siyabonga sihlalo. I think le gap lebe khona sihlalo eside ngalapho ngasesihlalweni kumbe chairman we board. Ngicabanga lokuthi we are stakeholders naye sihlalo la. We expected ukuthi kumbe ingcenye nakusetshenzwa lethu kumbe kube sike saba nawo leyo ma consultations la ke endiwe. Kube nje bekuya ngami mina nje bengayo le clause lena kufuneke ibe open nangabe really yekulekelela lamaswati. Kuthi you can invest your money lapho khona ubona khona nangabe ungayithathi, because Mopado it is set something lo ungakhona lokubona lokuthi lama interest akho kukhona lapho khona sathi khona nje ukuthi ngidamthola 7%, ngidamthola 11%, ngidamthola 13% kuleyo mali yami nangiyifake ngaleyo mnyaka wonke loyo. But here ubona ngako nje ukuthi badlale kuphi bona umlabalaba kwaqhamuka lokunganani. It's not clear at all. Ngiyacabanga ukuthi Bahlonishwa fune sihlaleleni yethu le we conflicted on this one. I think even the honorable chair naye ngilomunye naye lo lokufanele ukuthi ngabe kumbe engcenye kulena ikhulunywe ngilomunye wahlala lomunye lapha sayikhuluma ngaleyo noma lokunye kuvele kufanele sikubude yena sihlalo lokuthi kuhambe njani lapho kwahamba njani la. So ngiva ngathi Bahlonishwa we need isikhathi kulena yethu, and nathi asifuni si act irresponsible, especially when it comes to timali. Nathi siyafuna lo benefit futhi leto timali. Thank you very much, Chair.
Abanga Mhlonishwa ngibona lesisandla Mhlonishwa Madala.
Siyabonga Chair. No, bengifuna nje kungena kuleya Mopado Chair. Kuthi ngabe kukhutsate emalunga ukuthi abovama ukuvusela lelo office la Mopado. Usicela statement sakho banike dana. The only challenge leba khona nje kulendzaba ya government kwanza ukuthi le mali bayaphutha lokuyiremita le ka Mopado, which nako kuyaslimata kuma investments. But nje ba open bakunika statement. Sijwayele lokubavusela. Hayi lokubavusela masiyoboleka kuphela. Uze ngisetohlole emathola ami ukuthi amajani. Number 2, Chair. Angiboni ukuthi lena ingastressa kakhulu because sesiya understand life cycle yemalunga eParliament. Lo mthetho lona ukhulumela kulababuyako, but we all know ukuthi kubuya out of law 59 kubuya la kubo 10, so that solve lama worries lesinawo umthetho. Ukwanze ukuthi ayithola vele le mali yakho lothi kwakho ngilokungakuwe ngiloko Chair.
Bahlonishwa, omhlonishwa futhi.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. I think as sour as it may taste, Chair, it is a fact that pension fund is administered as pension. You only get it when you change employment, or when you lose your employment, or when you retire, or when you die. I think if we want to go like we want to take the money while you're still employed, then we need to change the entire name, not to be a pension fund, maybe a provident fund will work in that way. I think doing a consultation like the other members has just said here will help to just educate them at the entitlements of a pension fund. You cannot take your pension, you are still with the same employer, not unless it's provident fund or any other fund. Regardless how much uncomfortable you are with the conditions in the fund. But if it's pension, you have to separate, move away from that fund. That is when you can be able to benefit from those funds. Thank you, Chair.
On a lighter note, Chair, it will also help if government beyangasibambisa kumane kube 25 bahlonishwa at least because le fund beyitawukhula inqumbu lebesingakuthola sibahlonishwa so lo 10 nje uyasilimata ngoba vele imali lebungaphumi incane after nase siphuma sonke so
10
sorry
usho 10
as in malunga eParliament at least kube bekungabuya more than 25 bekungadlunga.
Mhlonishwa, welcome.
Ngiyabonga kakhulu Chairperson. Lo bengifuna nje ukukhuluma lakhuluma ngayo minister ukuthi nangabe seyehla le ndawo maybe lo 50 emalangeni kunale danger ukuthi labacashi bayibambe le mali and maybe banqode keeper le ndawo le penalty because they'll be making money somewhere else using this money. Ukuthi yini ke singabe sisaw expand lo mthetho for include even that ukuthi nawo tholakala ukuthi le mali bayibambe deliberately or to make money on the side phela ukuthi manje kube ne penalty maybe so if ifitha kube ne penalty less very stringent penalty notholakala ukuthi you've been withholding this money deliberately. Ngiloko nje Chairperson ngabe sesibafaka nangibhakedelinye.
Ebonga mhlonishwa Alec.
Cha Chair, bengithi tinyanga takashana hletside. Since siya ku workshop ngicabanga ukuthi bengaba kuhle lokuthi laba ka Mopato babe khona le workshop. Ikhona lelijale lo investor something. Akasichache nje ngalo Mopato ukuthi ume njani so that by the time sibuya la ndlini nalomthetho ukhanze ukuthi sesinako nasi lokubona njengoba mhlambe babona nabo nalama risk minister lawakhuluma ngawo. Thank you.
Njoma Siphula.
Ngiyabonga Chair, Honorable Chairman. Mhlambe nje kumbe sesiya ukuthola phambili umehluko wale pension nale gratuity. Ngoma usually some of us have never been employed permanently, but ngicabanga gratuity lo vama ukuthi na uphuma cedza contract uyithola graduate. But when you talk to nasikhuluma pension like umhlonishwa Ngamphalala sasho we're talking about something else. I think maybe njengoba asho umhlonishwa Leshaba kudasita na kusipha leyo brief lectures khona lokuthola kahle leti imali tikhona tot imbili noma vele yinye. Ngabe yinye ke mhlambe futhi sitaphinza sithi apply ngalenye indlela.
Bomhlonishwa cha igraduate sinikwa nguhulumende nasiphuma. kodwa ipension yakamuphathi. Mhlonishwa Allen.
Ngiyabonga Mhlonishwa Chair. Bengicela ukubuda nje kuncane Mhlonishwa Chair ukuthi sisela kule income tax le bracket yayo iya adjusteka yini for inflation noma nje kutawulolo matoti because uthola ukuthi ema prices ayenyuka and bantu abakhona ukuthenga letinye tinto but lo mthelo wenyuka kutaw adjusteka yini noma into etawulolo manje toti ngifuna ukubuda lokho sir.
Bonga Mhlonishwa. Maybe asengimane ngicacise nami ukuthi intervention ukuthi ndzabeni yamophato. Mhlonishwa sositile. Mhlonishwa futhi uyibeka nje clearly, you understand. I am aware because there are members who have an issue here. Bona it's an individual problem. Ngamophato. No matter how much you can explain to them, and they don't come to my workshops. 2 years ago, we had a workshop. Inductor emalunga lafika kolamash. They never came. But first thing, they would open the mouth. Mupado this, mupado this. And awubona lokho ukuthi what is the issue lele khona? Because each and every member bahlonishwa unesitifiketi sakhe. Lesifika simtshengisa interest. Lamanye ama interest aba far more than lelo khulunywa kwalo. So all I'm saying, bahlonishwa, this is your fund. This is a pension fund. Lenduwa legislature. It's not about chairman. If you have a problem with the chairman, you may have the chairman, but the law will always stand. And that is a fact. Honourable Minister, you may respond.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. Honourable Chair, shame, many of the Honourables just made statements and gave us advice, but I'll answer the few that were actually questions. So Honourable Ngampalala was asking about the 200 Emalangeni, which applies to PAYE, and that is a practice all. ERS is confirming to say number one, the legislation, the 200 Emalangeni is only applying to PAYE, according to the current legislation that we have. ERS is confirming to say they definitely don't apply the 200 Emalangeni to other fines. They're applying the 25 Emalangeni to other fines. But please, Honourables, we can check this. We're going to a workshop. Let's have a look. Make 100% sure. If you've heard people are playing this for other elements, please bring that evidence. It can help us. Mistakes can be made. But the legislation is clear. It's only applicable to PAYE as we speak. And I think it seems like it is being applied to PAYE, is what we are hearing. Otherwise, Honourable Manzini made some statements, which I think we'll clarify on further. DS statements should become. Honourable Doctor said maybe more MPs should come back. It'll be a good idea. Honourable Welcome did make a good statement to say that we need to really keep in mind that we don't incentivize employers here too. So, and that's a good point, Honourable Chair. We need to get that balance right. We're not overly punishing them something daily which is not deserved, but at the same time, these are business people, and they're very crafty, and they could also very well find themselves intentionally withholding if we get the numbers wrong. So we need to make sure really it is a punitive thing to do and to be applied. Honourable Alex said should do a workshop. I think Honourable Masipula is talking about a gratuity, and I think Honourable Chair was correct. There is a gratuity element. So those MPs that come back, I know we made a change, Honourable Chair. Those that come back don't get the gratuity. Those that come back, those that don't come back get the gratuity. Those that come back don't get it. Honourable Allen has raised a good question on the brackets. We haven't been changing brackets, Honourable, for a while, and he is right. We need to start considering brackets. The 3,500 minimum bracket has been there for too long. It is something we need to start considering. So we will take that point and start having a look at that. Unfortunately, at the moment, because we are trying to get as much tax as possible without actually coming with new taxes, these brackets have not moved. But inflation is there, and 3,500 Emalangeni is becoming a bit low. We do need to consider that as soon as possible. Thank you, Honourable Chair. That's it from me on these batches of legislation.
Thank you. I think Closure Cruz was lamenting about a payment that was never made to them. So I don't know whether you responded to that, Minister. Did you?
No, I don't respond to that one because I wasn't there when it wasn't made.
Well, I think the minister that made the payment is supposed to be the one talking. Anyway, thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Mhlonishwa, welcome.
Yes, yes. Just ngifuna nje clarity, honorable chairperson, kule issue yale kungaremithwa kwale PAYE. Sike sabona lapho minister khona bese write off ama debts abo UNESWA and stuff. Engabe lapho, what had you identified in terms of lokuthi le PAYE bebayibamba nje besishonaphi? Because then you could have maybe funded someone's personal life by writing off such an amount of debt. You know, maybe that clarity. Thank you.
Please, House Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So obviously audits are done on an annual basis, and we've done quite a few different audits on the university you're referring to as an example. And if there was that money flowing into personal lives or being stolen, that would have been coming up in those elements. But at the same time, what we found when we looked at UNESCO, they had this, if I recall, 1 billion emalangeni tax liability. And it was made up of different tax elements. There was PAYE in there. There was VAT they hadn't paid over. There was taxes income tax from their money-making entities that hadn't been paid over, and all the penalties and all the interest. And the truth is, it got to a point where they just couldn't pay it. So if you recall, we put in a rule with all the parastatals, because many of them found themselves in the same place, is to say, show us 6 months of good behavior, of paying all your taxes for 6 months, and we'll write off the debt. We were never going to get it anyway, Honourable. It was absolutely impossible for them to repay it. And so they did that. And in fact, we helped them because we started holding it from source. Before paying them the subvention, we held the tax at source, and that then kind of forced their hand. They then complied for 6 months, and then we then wrote off the tax. But we believe that the audits would have highlighted anything to what you are referring to in case money was siphoned. But the bottom line is they were just running an unsustainable business and got themselves into that financial dilemma.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Ahlonishwa, ngicela ukuthi let's move to regulations. Matsathu lengwabona kola. Bunalena yaga RSF, kubana Customs and Excise, bese kubana VAT amendment to schedule, I think. Honourable Minister, please.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. I'll start with the Revenue Stabilisation Fund amendments, regulations. So, all three of these, not one of them are new regulations, all three are previous regulations, they are just amendments to regulations. The first one is the Stabilisation Fund. Honourable Chair and Finance Committee, the Ministry of Finance submits the Revenue Stabilisation Fund regulations for 2026 for consideration by the committee. The purpose of amending regulations is to seek approval for the Revenue Stabilisation Fund Amendments Regulation 2026, which proposed to amend Regulation 6 of the Revenue Stabilisation Fund Regulation 2023 in order to extend the period for ministerial discretion over the capitalisation of the fund to 2 years from 2 years to 3 years. Parliament will recall that the member states of the Southern African Customs Union, including the Kenya Eswatini, are highly dependent on SACU receipts as a major source of government revenue. However, SACU revenues are inherently volatile due to the cyclical nature of the three components of the common revenue pool, namely customs, excise, and the development component. Particularly the customs component is the one that's very volatile. The proposed amendments seek to amend the ministerial discretion over the capitalisation of the fund by one.
Sorry, Honourable Minister. Honourable Slongonyane, thank you. Proceed, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. So we requesting additional 1 year from the current 2 years to 3 years, thereby providing flexibility during this current financial year 26-27. And this extension is necessary to mitigate anticipated fiscal and cash flow pressures in the 26-27 financial year and to ensure that sufficient resources remain available to finance priority government programs and obligations. This approach strikes an appropriate balance between maintaining fiscal discipline, preserving the integrity of the fund, and ensuring adequate budget financing. It also demonstrates government's continued commitment to fiscal sustainability, thereby mitigating any potential concerns from credit rating agencies and development partners, including the World Bank. This initial discretion was necessary because SACU receipts increased significantly from 3.8 billion emalangeni in 22-23 to 11.8 billion in 23 to 2024. Strict application of the 5-year moving average formula at that time would have required a substantial deposit into the fund, thereby reducing resources available to finance critical government expenditure. Subsequently, SACU revenues have maintained consistently high, averaging approximately 11.7 billion between 2023 and 2024 and 26-2027. That's the first one, Honourable Chair. The next one's the Custom Excise Amendment Regulations. This one is quite simple. The Ministry of Finance submits the Customs Excise Amendment Regulation 2025 for consideration by the Honourable Committee. The regulation aims to revise upwards changes for customs operations which have not been revised in over a decade, hence no longer appropriate to the current time. This is therefore justified to revise them in order to support customs operations. Also, the regulations ensure alignment with decisions taken by SACU Council of Ministers on integration of customs operations as well as customs legislations across SACU member states. This is essential to enhance intra-SACU trade. Additionally, the regulations legitimizes places of entry for commercial purposes into the country, including the King Mswati III International Airport. The main objective is to strengthen trade facilitation and support efforts geared towards economic development in our country. The last one for the day, Honourable Chairperson, is the Value Added Tax Amendment Regulations of 2025. The Ministry of Finance submits the Value Added Tax Amendment Regulation of 2025 for consideration by the Honourable Committee. The submission is consistent with Section 84 of the VAT Act of 2011, which empowers the Minister to make regulations for better carrying out the effects of the provisions of the VAT Act. The objective of this amendment is to harmonise and ensure alignment of the VAT legislation following the promulgation of the VAT Amendment Act of 2022, as well as an implementation of the VAT Act, which is the amendment of schedules noticed in 2022, which provides VAT relief. It also enhances proper use of the reverse charge mechanism to support trade. Additionally, it provides clarity to the administration of VAT in donor-funded projects consistent with the Constitution of Eswatini, as well as international agreements designed to foster inclusive development in our country. This includes specifying the schedule of public international organizations in the VAT regulations to strengthen administration of the VAT legislation. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Siyabonga, Honourable Minister. Malunga lahloniphekile. The floor is open on the regulations. Sayibekile induna asengicalele kumhlonishwa Shaba, ngide kumhlonishwa futhi Ncampalala. For now, thank you.
Siyabonga kakhulu Chair. Chair, ngayiva induna ikhuluma nge-stabilization fund and ngathi consent lokuthi start Kansas sinemali eningi ngale ku-stabilization fund bese sibabethe imali yokuhambisa uhulumende. Lokuliqiniso nakho lokho. But ngicela induna ike isithathe isifake esipolweni ngoba SACU akasemanga kahle. Sesinemave la ku-SACU. Lama tax regimes awo angasi uniform. Livela seSwatini nalithengisa noma liyongenisa tindvo kulamanye eMelika is treated favorably. Bese kuthi iShayina nayithengisa kusenta njani la ku-SACU letindvo leto lokuthi asasi aligned. Kukhona la kusi-affecta khona thina esilivela kangwane. Noma nje indzaba yokuthi uthengise eMelika, indzaba yokuthi sithenge eShayina. It has nothing to do with SACU. Ngifuna kuyiva lokuthi le ndvo yekungafana kwala tindvo tindlela tekutsengiselana itiyasihamba isimisa njani nje sinesilive nakangwane angisho ukuthi sihambe soyakha budlelwane nabo bani ngithi nje ngiyabuta for understanding ngiyabonga kakhulu che
Siyabonga mhlonishwa futhi Ncopalala.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Ngiyacela kuve emvuneni ukuthi ingabe ikhona indlela lemali kule fund. Noma ngile mali nje lesesikhulume ngayo yahulumende. Leba ngimali lesemaphepheni kuphela. If ikhona, how much is it? And what criteria governs its withdrawal? Nase sifuna kuyisusa ngale. Thank you, Chair.
Siyabonga mhlonishwa. That being said, asengicela induna iphendule. Honorable Minister. Mhlonishwa Alec, solo nguwe.
yes che sengicabanga nje che ukuthi mhlambe lo mbuto wemhlonishwa Khubuta Masiphula umhlonishwa Masiphula uya align lapho khona bekuthiwa lama regulations lawa savele align sezivumelene. Then the question is yini ke lesila injinja thina nangabe lo kulesikhuluma ngakho sekuvele kuvunyiwe somewhere.
Thank you, Mhlonishwa. Honorable Minister, you may respond.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. If you don't mind, I'll start with the last question. So just for clarity, at SACU level, we have not agreed to say this country must change this. It's not at the level. All we've done is we've said that we need to try to align our regulations and laws around custom excise so that SACU moves smoothly. And so at the moment, when we're saying that at SACU level, ministers have agreed for alignment, it is purely to say that we've agreed to say we all need to try and align in a certain way, and that's what we're trying to do. We are finding that our legislation maybe is saying this is amount of excise duties, that was saying something else. We are saying, no, let's all make sure we're the same, so that in SACU, which is the objective of SACU, in SACU, there's no, let's take VAT. In Eswatini, we just follow South Africa with VAT. If there's even if we are 0.5% lower or 0.5% higher, it's chaos at the border because people must either pay in or claim or something funny. So in that sense, we always try to align to make sure smooth cross-border transactions take place with our bigger neighbor around these issues. So that's what you're referring to. It's not a matter of someone dictating to us to say you have to do this. It's not at all the case. It's just that we have agreed to try to align so that we make it smooth for our taxpayers and our companies. Otherwise, then Honourable Alec was asking, are we not maybe leaving too much in the fund? And so Honourable, just to explain, in fact, I'll maybe explain altogether because obviously it's crazy. So let me start with the fund. To start off with the fund, currently has about 1.75 billion emalangeni in the fund. It is not a theoretical figure, Honourable. It is real cash in a real account sitting at Central Bank. Central Bank reports on it. If you look at the Central Bank reports, you will find that that the reports are reflecting exactly as I'm saying. This is a year, unlike the previous year. Last year, we took money out of the fund. We had about 2.5 billion in the fund beginning of last year. Because we only got 10.4 billion from SACU, we took 1 billion out of the fund so that we could continue spending 11.4 billion. This year, we got 11.7 billion. So this year, we are putting 300 million into the fund again, because at the moment, the average we are working on is 11.4 billion, seems like the new average. Now, the reason why we need this, so just to explain maybe the next question, why do we need to change this 2 years to 3 years? If you recall, Honourables, we had an extremely low year. In fact, put it this way, we did a few measures. If you recall, for instance, we changed the grey import rules. There were grey imports coming to the country. We changed the rules from 15 years down to 8 years. It was tough. It was a massive industry, but the industry was hurting our SACU receipts heavily. Fuel, we would allow most of our fuel just to come from Mozambique, as an example, whereas actually we pay the same price if it comes through South Africa or comes from Mozambique. So what we did is we did some alignments. We still kept the channels open from Mozambique, but we took it from, I think, almost 70% down to 20% from Mozambique overall. Those measures increased our amount of SACU money from an average of about 7 billion to an average of about 11.4 billion. Just the measures that we did. So we really managed to collect more cash. Reliance on SACU is another story. We can talk another day on reliance on SACU, but it was foolish to leave money on the table as a country, to leave money with to give our money to other countries. We now just we're taking money that is due to us as Eswatini. Now, but unfortunately, now when we are using, so now the SACU Stabilization Fund says, we will use a 5-year rolling average. So we'll look backwards and look at the previous 5 years, work out what's the average to see how much in this year you are using as an average, which means you are cutting and filling. Now, the problem with going backwards is the 5.9 billion we received in, when was it, 21, 22, I think there's somewhere. It was so low, it was the lowest point in a long time, 5.8 billion. If the 5.8 billion is in the 5-year rolling average, and maybe in the workshop we can draw this out because it is a bit complicated to understand, but if the 5.8 is in the average, it means the average is a lot lower than what it should be, meaning that this year I would have left a whole lot more into the fund, which was exactly as Honorable Leshaba is saying. Now you end up putting in much more than you actually need to in the fund because you are using that one very low year. So all we asked this year is to say, let's increase, because we knew that, we said, give the ministry discretion for 2 years. And so we said, so what we're asking for now is, can we change it to say, can we make it 3 years? Just so that by the time we get to next year, that 5.8 billion is now out of the 5-year rolling average. The rolling average is now ufanele what it should be, and guya phambili nje itawulunga. So that's the just to try and get your head around. I can see you understanding. So it's so just to understand what we are doing, what the request is, and that's what we're trying to do. So at the moment, in the year that we are in, once again we've applied the 11.4 billion, and we are putting 300 million into the fund, taking it from about 1.5 in the beginning of the year, because there's interest also growing in the fund, fortunately, and it'll get to about 2 billion by the time the year is finished, which will be very nice, going to the next year with about 2 billion in the stabilization fund. And it really makes a difference. Before, our economy would spend, and then all of a sudden it drops, and you got a real crisis. Right, the next question from Honorable Alec was to say that, how does this different countries with different relationships with international suppliers affect us? Number one, it really doesn't affect us quite heavily. What we must keep in mind, and that is that SACU is around imports. It's tariffs on imports. It's structured in a way that if the imports are for agriculture or for industrialization, there's normally not much of a tariff on it. If it's for luxury goods, if you're buying a Lamborghini, let's just say, in Eswatini, you're going to pay 40% import duty on a luxury car. So it's skewed towards charging heavily for luxury goods, but trying not to affect agriculture, industrialization, the growth of your economy. It's trying to tax the upper end. About 140 billion every year from the whole SACU pool goes into it. Eswatini contributes 1.5 billion into the fund, and we receive 11.4 billion, 11.4 on average from the fund. So it really is beneficial for us. But what I'm getting at, and that is that we must understand that it's based on imports. So the restrictions that we're referring to different countries, the restrictions are on exports, which doesn't affect the fund at all. It's on imports. Eswatini, our second biggest import partner. South Africa is number one. Our second one is mainland China. Is our second biggest country we import from, which means goods we import from mainland China. If there's tariffs due, we pay our tariffs, and the money goes into the fund as we should. So the export funnies that we have don't have an impact on the fund as is. Sorry for taking a bit long, but if I go short, it sounds like I'm trying to avoid the question. I think that's answering the questions, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much. Mhlonishwa Deputy Speaker.
Siyabonga, Chair. The stabilization, I've got no problem. It's justifiable, the request to extension 1 year from the Minister. Bengifuna nje kuchecka since nakusikhulumisa lo mthetho lo obviously la ka ARS la singakhona kubamba khona every money lephuma kweven. I do believe we still have got a problem on illicit financial flows. Angiwate ama reports la khona nyalo atsini. Kuthi kude nibe nikubonde la mthethweni uzikwendiwa lo mthetho nema regulations ukuthi tibambeke leti mali letiphuma even. Ngidawubekisa nje naye I know ukuthi kusemthethweni ukuthi leti tolo leti trader kufuna insindo kuswipe. Kufuna ngabe tiyaswipe. Ngelenye indlela yokubamba imali, the true picture ukuthi kwendekani ku economy yethu noma ke ikakhulu nakuma retailers. But we know for a fact, and we've spoken about this, ukuthi kunetitolo tabo my brother letingafuni nje indzaba ukuthi kuswipe tifuna cash noma tikhuluma ngabo e-wallet kuteni lamthethweni lesingakwenda ukuthi kukhebheke leyo nangizane leyo chair as measures of closing the steps with imali letigcine tingakhona ukusita silive then bese kutsinza kulendzaba ye-mainland China chair angathi la kithi ngathi sekwaba tabu nje wakhuluma nge-mainland China ngathi sekwaba yishishi I don't know why kanti phela our foreign policies we are friends to all enemy to none but nje watsinza nje indzaba ye-mainland kanti vele sithenga khona and makuthiwa onke lamavela ngu-53 Africa ana better tariffs nangizane sifelansi nesimaswati so bengifuna kuva nje kuminisa ukuthi what is the position ngoma sibadzinga maku convenient for thina naku kanje emphakeni kwakha a firm from mainland China naye imayini lapha ye chat ye green chat the proprietors laba lapha they are from the mainland China but I understand ukuthi mase kukhulunywa ngayo kungazuthi so sesinyanya I China on Taiwan kanti phela ngasothi kufuna atikhetsele la funa kutsenga khona that is number one but nje you know it chair ukuthi wakhuluma nje nge-mainland la kangwane ngathi so sitha selive thank you chair
Thank you Mhlonishwa Mthetho
cha nami bengithi chair ngifuna ukungena kiyo le nangokuthi hey lenzaba ye-mainland China asebabone nabo ba le cabinet ukuthi bangasibambisa kanjani ngoba no into incumbi nje uva ukuthi ufuna kusupply isima transformer ufuna kwathenga eChina then so dula la tariff ukuthi ngabe ngeke sebazama kwakha lobudlelwane ukuthi nasi bangasicharge la tariffs fana lamanye amave la Africa ngoba kuyasilimata simaswati kakhulu nyalo emaswati seka optcha kuthenga ngathi base South Africa tingene South Africa bekhandi tita la khale tinto ngiyacela nje sebakubuke nako lokho bazame ukuthi bakukhulumisane bona le ecabinet na minister of foreign affairs azame lokwakha lobudlelwane lobutawu khona ukuthi live likhona kuphila ngiloko nje lengingakuveta silalo lesihloniphekile
Thank you siyabonga Mhlonishwa Honorable Minister but maybe ngifuna nje ukungena endzabeni ye fuel levy kokuthi utsenzile but ngifuna ukukhuluma kakhulu ngale smuggled fuel levy kokuthi njengoba nisho ukuthi lamalo kwanyana the income from fuel levy yehla noma i-stagnant le smuggling lapho sihamba sifike ephi kuloko lesitama kwenda bese ngicela ke ukuthi nasingena ku workshop le ERS ngoba utaba free kukhuluma lapho asakasichazela ngale loli le banjweleka lavumisa angathi noma sasekhona yini but last year beyikhona na this year beyikhona nanyalo ngamachi ngikhanzile solo yema lapha because smugglish fuel ngicela ukuthi abosichazela nje ukuthi kwa abesmugglish fuel asukaphi anganani yazi yabanjwa kanjani ngalavumisa seyicithile so empty lo fuel thank you Ms Minister you may proceed
Thank you very much Honourable Chair so first of all questions from Honourable DS first of all illicit financial flows there's two different things here Honourable Chair number one is illicit financial flows and then there's also this cheating VAT is really what it boils down to, this swiping in the shops story. So illicit financial flows, we were shocked actually a while ago, Honourable Chair, when we realised that there were a lot more illicit financial flows than what we realised. We haven't, as the problem that we have in Eswatini, sometimes the left hand doesn't speak to the right hand. So we were having STRs coming through FIU, okay, I'm using it too many acronyms. STRs are suspicious transaction reports that come from the banks. They report into our financial intelligence unit. Financial intelligence unit then takes them and they say, right, okay, this one is a crime. It goes to police. This one is fraud. It goes to ACC. This one is tax evasion, goes to ERS. That ERS element wasn't happening properly. So we have a new CEO there, and it's now working properly. And all of a sudden, ERS is receiving a huge amount of information about finances going out the country and When they looked at a huge amount of 4 billion, they found that I think 1 in 10 was paying tax. So it was, we're finding we've got massive problems around this, as well as the fact that these gambling things are also somehow gamblers, even the ones that have licenses, feel like they shouldn't pay tax for some reason. So, but these issues are being sorted out. So holes around the illicit financial flows are being closed quite well now, and you'll see also in the legislation we're adding something small here where reporting to ERS should also take place around certain things. You will see with the tax compliance certificates is helping a huge amount. So that these days, if someone is transferring a big amount of money out of the country, they must come with a tax clearance certificate to say that on this money, my taxes are in order, I've paid my taxes to transfer this money out the country. So we're closing loopholes on the illicit financial flows from this right hand, now speaking to the left hand stories. When it comes to the swiping, we are making amendments here, Honourable Chair, which are allowing us. ERS has done. They've been working on this for years, but they went to tender. They now have someone from Serbia who is actually is going to be our service provider on this. They went through a huge recruitment process to find the best in the world for a country like ours, for Eswatini, to be able to close the loopholes on VAT. So these things of not wanting to swipe in the time, they cannot swipe, they can do it, but when that transaction takes place at that shop, there's ways to check it from multiple sources to make sure, and we'll unpack this now because it'll be very good for you to understand, Honourables, because we need your support when we're going to roll this thing out. So we'd like to really unpack this, and there's changes in the regulations to give them the power to be able to do this and to be able to make sure they can enforce it. But I strongly believe that when we have unpacked that to you and when we're going to enforce this, we're going to be able to collect a huge amount of VAT that is currently losing our country, and it's mainly from the retailers being referred to by Deputy Speaker. I think a good question also is, what's the sensitivity towards mainland China? Or let's say Beijing, because China, that word China is used on different fronts. At the moment, Honourable Chair, honestly, as someone has put it here, we've got zero problem with mainland China, zero problem with Beijing. We recognize the independence, we recognize the sovereignty of Republic of China on Taiwan. That does not mean we've got a problem at all with Beijing. The fact that Beijing doesn't want to have diplomatic ties with Eswatini is a choice that they have made, not that we have made. And they are making that choice because they are saying that they got a one China policy, and they claim that Taiwan is part of them. And for that reason, anyone recognizing the sovereignty of Taiwan, they're not giving diplomatic relations to. So that's where we stand. But from Eswatini's side, they're our second biggest trading partner. As was touched on, the dam that's being built down. Across Africa, you find that mainland China is very active. And to build dams, they provide the loans, and then they build the dam. In Eswatini, it wasn't even the case. They didn't even provide the loan. The loan came from African Development Bank that we loaned. And just because they were the cheapest contractor and they had the experience of building these massive dams before, they won the contract. And we didn't then say, oh, it's mainland China, we're not going to give the contractors contractor. No, we find it's mainland China. We allowed them to come in. They got the contract by a Sebenda. Now, sometimes you find that Taiwan is not comfortable with us doing this work with mainland China. That's not our problem. Between Taiwan and mainland China, they've got massive trade relations. It wouldn't be fair for them to say, Eswatini, you mustn't have trade relations. So from that perspective, we've got trade relations, and we got as good as possible relationship as we can have. And like I said, we've got zero problem with mainland China, and we work with them as best we can. So just to put clarity on that. And again, maybe then coming to Honourable Mafoteni's issue, when it comes to mainland China, there's definitely no strange or other import duties on mainland China goods. When it comes to goods coming from mainland China or anywhere in the world, it's normal. If there's an import duty on that product, it applies to every country that we import from. There's no special thing. So no, there's no arrangement. When it comes to us selling goods, yes, now there's a difference. Taiwan has given us very preferential trade for us selling our products. So when we are producing honey and sugar and whatever, there's a long list of products, they've given us a zero import duty to Taiwan. So there we've got a very favorable. Now mainland China is using imports into China from us as the Ndugu to hit us with to say, no, here, Other African countries have got zero tariffs. Eswatini, you're the only one on the continent that's got tariffs because we don't have diplomatic ties with you. So there's an export tariff issue, but there's no import tariff issue, for clarity. Honourable Chair, I think you were touching on fuel smuggling, but I think you did say we can unpack this very clearly, because I think what the committee needs to understand is, with what we are doing here, with what is happening, are we going to make sure we are closing the gaps on what is happening? And so I think when ERS does the presentation on this fuel one, we'll be able to really prove that that we are closing the gaps, because we have gaps in our system by only charging when the wholesaler sells to the retailer. Hey, there's a few gaps in the system where somehow it doesn't happen. And at the moment we are saying, as a country, to say our fuel usage is going down and down and down and down every year, Honourables, it's just not true. You see the roads, you see the traffic, you see the movement. It's going up and up and up, not down and down. And so we clearly have a problem here. And I think we're going to be shocked when we apply this law to see what it should be. And it doesn't only affect our 3 Malangeni 80 cents of tax, it affects MVA levy, it affects our road fund, it affects our strategic oil reserve. There are a few of these things that collect levies. It affects all of them. So if we get this right, it's going to have a big impact on all those entities. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Mthetho.
Ngiyabonga Sihlalo. Bengifuna ukucela Sihlalo ukuthi ngabe minister angasikhulumela njani nemabhanga, ngoba endzabeni yale speed point lokuswiper labanye labanemabhasi bazamile na uthi ufaka i-speed point bayaswiper la i-trip ya na kumele ubhadale 8 emalangeni khona. Nase sibuya le speed point sitakunika 72 emalangeni, 8 emalangeni wonke uhambile ma charges e speed point. So la charges are exuberant, ugcine uluza le mali lothi uyayakha kanti kube phela manje lamabhange nawo azame kuba friendly ngoba bonke babalekela ma charges ale speed point. Yeah, emabhasini nje labanye bawazamile Mhlonishwa. Ngikhuluma la ngiyibone khona Mhlonishwa. Phindze ke Mhlonishwa ngithi ngabe ERS angasebenzela njani endzabeni yanaba labathi baba somabhizinisi la khaya bese bathatha le mali yonke la veni yo deliver le maveni abo ithuthukise le maveni abo yeke lekuthuthukisa la kithi. Kusi lapho bangasimonithela njani ze imali tingaphumi. Ngabe nangathi bawucupha kanti ehambela wonke imali. Asiphinde siyithola. Ngiyacela nje Mhlonishwa.
Cha, ngiyabonga Mhlonishwa. Mafutseni. Kodwa nje bekungaba kuhle ukuthi wena una big brother lamabhasini bekungaba kuhle sicontrolwe nguye. Ngoba wena ngu-small business emabhasini. Siyabonga Mhlonishwa. Honourable Minister, please.
I can speak up, but I suppose you want it on the...
Come here, Minister.
Yeah, Honourable Chair, I think so. I think the only question was really the speed points, and at the moment, I wasn't listening. That kept the second question. Sorry, I was looking at something else. So let me then start on the first one. Is to say that the speed points, he's 100% right. The speed points, especially on smaller transactions, it's quite high because I think there's a charge there and there's a percentage. And so on this one, what central bank is working on now is to do at the moment, the transactions taking place in South Africa when you swipe, it's going there and it's expensive. The bank is working on that transaction now taking place in Eswatini. First of all, they've already done the quick payments, what they call quick payments, which means if you are moving money between banks, it's no longer going through South Africa, it's now going between banks in Eswatini. So you'll see the moment you pay from one bank to another bank, instantly it's showing straight away. So that's working, it's done. It was tough doing, but it's now through. The next one is now they're working on this one, where the swiping through MasterCard, Visa card and things, it's happening in Eswatini, which means that, and what they're saying is the charges are going to come down. Now, I don't know how much and I don't know what, but let's stop on a corner when it happens. At the moment, the charges is totally out of our control. It doesn't come from us. I think your next point was to say money leaving the country, is to say that what can we do about that? How can we handle that? And you're talking about the contractors that we issue. Listen, Mr. Charles, if you don't mind.
I'm talking about the isale vele lakho ayisabuyi la vele. Then at the end of the day ukuthi sithola ukuthi nesithola nje tax kuphela ukuthi development lesika ngayo. Kuthi ngombe kanjani ukuthi monitor imali ngoba uthatha amabhillion 2 billion so sevele lakhe yokusebenza something. Ikona esithina nathi sithole 1 million or 100 million.
So honorables, this one, number one, is a bit tricky. So we need to, number one, make sure that what business are we looking at. So at the moment, we've got a citizenship empowerment bill, which is, the law was passed already. We're now busy with regulations. When the regulations are passed, it should really make sure that there's a category of businesses which must be citizens owned. Now, please understand, honorables, somehow we've got non-indigenous Eswatini walking around with citizenship. And that's another big problem that we are having, because how they got that citizenship is questionable with many of them. Some have got it 100% legitimately, but some of them have got Sbonga Maswati, and it's very strange what is going on there. So the problem is we can have a good citizenship empowerment bill. It's not going to help us if somehow people have got IDs and citizens and passports, which they have got irregularly. So what I'm saying is, unfortunately, we can do all we can on this front, but unless you close this door here, we're wasting our time. But secondly, now when it comes to making sure investments are being done in Eswatini, this is where a citizen empowerment bill is going to be effective, is because, let us just say, it's a company coming into the country, they're producing goods for export, and it's helping for jobs. You know what? Anybody must come in, you can take your profits where you want to, Gulungile. But when goods are being sold in Eswatini, that's where it is our money we've got control over. And there we must be strict, is to say, if it's goods that are being sold in Eswatini to Eswatini, now that money we need to do everything we can to keep that money in country and ensure that it's our people doing that work. But we must be careful that that does not prevent someone from coming into the country to set up a factory who's exporting, and we're now somehow making it tough for him, because those are the ones you want to make sure it's open and free, because the market is apparently all he's doing is using a Maswati to do the work. You know, it's tricky, but we need to, I think the empowerment bill coming through, or the regulations, should clear this up, but we need to check the citizenship side. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. Bahlonishwa, ngicabanga ukuthi you have come to the end of our business for the day. Lesingacela ukuthi kusasa siqala nga-9. We are hoping ukuthi 9 o'clock, number 10. 9 o'clock. We are hoping ukuthi bahlonishwa from here they are going straight to a hotel, a Hilton, where they are booked, and then tomorrow morning siqala umsebenzi. Maybe lokunye lokushotako ngicabanga ukuthi sekude baluka la hloniphekile. Let's adjourn the committee work. Siyabonga bahlonishwa.